Oh, here we go.
Rantcast. All right. So welcome, Joe Cozier, and this is the Rantcast. We're back after a long hiatus. Hope everybody had a good Easter season and everything else. Credit to Carl Casey at White Bat Audio for the music. Thanks to Elviler for our new artwork, which you're going to see shortly here. So we got Joe Cozier in the chat. Welcome. We've also got some guests here tonight. Strange Bus is recovering from some stuff he had to go through. So we've got Karningul. We've got AngusMcBane. And of course, your humble host, myself. So tonight, the topics we're mainly going to be talking about HeroQuest. There's been a lot of news in the world of HeroQuest, and if I hadn't had so many family events, I would have talked about this stuff weeks ago. So shout out to my peers in the HeroQuest influencer community, if you want to call it that. People like Always Bored, Never Boring, people like Sir Death, people like Amalgamash, and a lot of other people, but those are guys I tend to follow. They've all made their predictions about Rise of the Dread Moon and the Prophecy of Telor coming to retail. And then we've also got some stuff to talk about when it comes to the HeroQuest companion app, which has had a whole bunch of updates lately. And if we have any time, I think we're going to cover some Star Wars. There's always something to rant about in the world of Star Wars. And I just want to say again, for the record, I don't want anybody to misunderstand what it is that we do here. It's the Rantcast, not the hate cast, not the disparagement cast or anything like that. We're just passionate about stuff that we talk about. We're not trying to shut down anybody else's opinion, but if you want to come on and challenge us, I mean, that's great, or just share your opinion. Generally, I make it a policy not to attack any fans. Sometimes we'll go hard after companies or after products that we feel have disappointed us, but other fans, I mean, agree to disagree. It's fine. Like, I know people think that I'm wrong, 6 ways from Sunday, and I'm okay with that. I can live with it. So anyway, let's get rid of some of these graphics here so we can see what's going on. All right, so this fancy new border is from Elviler. You can check out his work, of course, Elviler's Game Room. And let's see, we need to get rid of that microphone. He designed that too. All right. Let's see. Joe Cozier says, "Oh, why did I forget you were the same person?" See, this is like when people. I can't believe I did that. Okay, guys. Yeah, this is like when people were like, "Well, Palpatine and Darth Sidious might not be the same person," just because we thought that. Like, yeah.
Oh,
Just because you never see us in the same room.
If I can go on a very brief tangent on that, I was
Yeah.
I kind of still am a fan of the old classic Decipher Star Wars card game. Still got my collection. When they adapted Phantom Menace,
Hey, keep talking. I'm gonna be right back.
Lucasfilm forbid them from having the game treat any of the Palpatines as the same persona. It was the most ridiculous absurdity that I've ever seen.
They probably wanted to keep the mystery going.
But, I mean, it was just so silly, though, right? Because the game actually enforced a certain level of logical consistency. You know, so you couldn't just plonk down 7 Vaders, right? It's like if Vader was on the board, that's the Vader. If he dies, the Vader character is dead. Like, you know, that kind of thing. And
right.
But specifically with Palpatine, you could have Senator Palpatine staring down from one side of the board at Emperor Palpatine and Darth Sidious, you know, hugging each other on the other side. It was like, wait, what is this? There's 3 of him. And that's because they weren't allowed to have the game give away that Senator Palpatine and Emperor Palpatine were the same person, nor that Darth Sidious was actually Palpatine in disguise.
Wow.
Even though it really wasn't that big of a stretch for all of us to figure that out by then.
Anybody who knew the expanded universe knew it was him.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, it's like what was it? Qui-Gon Jinn's Noble End on the soundtrack. It's like, oh, there's a spoiler. And the toys were spoiled. The thing about Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, was on the one hand, you had this like cult of fans, and I was one of them. I was, you know, a complete believer in this, that you have to avoid all spoilers, because if anything from the movie is spoiled, it's going to be ruined because you've waited 30 years for this, which really you hadn't. You'd been waiting maybe like 5 years since George Lucas had been talking about it in interviews. But like, how many times are you going to see a movie? Once? You're going to see it. Okay, you'll see it twice. So it's like, okay, a spoiler, whatever. But at the same time that people were like trying to avoid spoilers, like the media was just awash in it. It's like, oh, get this, you know, behind the scenes teaser, this tidbit. Oh, look, a new character. And it was trying to cater to that. So I remember when Episode 3 was coming out, we finally had, like, I was on a fan forum, and we kind of reached the point where it's like, okay, we're going to have the spoiler forum, which is for the people that want to know everything about the movie before they see it, even though it's not going to affect whether it's a good movie or not, because you know all the stuff. And then all the people that want to remain spoiler free, but just gush about what they think might be in it without knowing. So anyway, it's just a funny thing. Anymore though, if I know, it's like I don't worry about spoilers anymore with movies. I mean, the movies that I go to watch have usually been around so long. It's like I could find out, but it's like it's even if you know like a key scene in the movie, like before seeing it, you don't know the context. So if it's a good movie, it's still going to be okay. Like I watch reaction videos. I mean, I know a lot of reaction videos are just fake. I mean, it's just entertainment. Oh my gosh, you know, you're just pretending. But it's like it's still kind of cool to see like people know I am your father, but they don't know what the context of that is. They know the meme, you know, they're taking the hobbits to Isengard. Like, okay, whatever. But when you see it in the movie, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Unless it's something stupid that you're making fun of, like, you know, somehow Palpatine returns. Like, oh wow, it's not even any better in context. Just we're not going to tell you why. It just is. Like, okay.
Yeah, I like to stay away from spoilers as much as I can, but I don't know. I do like the seeing the preview clips, which I don't feel like those are spoilers. It's just
people dissect.
2 weeks ago with the last Mandalorian episode with Jack Black, they were already showing spoilers for the episode on Monday before it came out on Wednesday. So
well, people binge it. I mean, in the old days, like you'd watch a TV show, like you see the trailer for the next episode, and then it's a whole week before you see it, and you've already forgotten that stuff. All you know is like, oh my gosh, I've got to make sure I don't miss it.
Like, next week on $6 Million Man.
Yep. Well, and sometimes they just lie to you, like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you betrayed the person." No, he didn't really. It was just fake out.
Yeah. Well, I was one of those rabid fans that any chance I got my parents to take me back to the theater or go with the friends, I saw Star Wars probably 10 times the first month that it was out,
Hmm.
which was pretty amazing feat since I was 10 years old.
Yeah. See, I never did that well, even I think in my college years, there was a couple movies where I watched it twice, and it's like, oh wow, or maybe I
Yeah,
saw it
and
a third time. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know. With some movies, I've gotten to the point where I don't know if you guys have done this, where it's like I watch a movie so much that it's in my collection. It's like the DVD or the Blu-ray is on the shelf, and I'll be like, I'm gonna watch a movie tonight, and my hand is like reaching for the disc, like my hand is reaching for it. And it's like, it takes like, less than 10 seconds for me to reach for it, but in that time, like the whole movie has flashed through my head, and I don't feel like I need to watch it, so I just like my hand just like drops to my side again. And it's so
I
weird
thought I
because
was the
like
only one
that
that did
happens
that.
every time. That happens to you too?
Yeah,
And it's like, so okay, I really have seen that movie to death. It's like, oh, I save so much money because I don't buy all these other movies that I'm only going to watch once or twice. But it's almost like I have to force myself to watch it. Like after The Last Jedi was so disappointing, I forced myself to watch the original trilogy again. I was like, these are damn good movies. Yes. Now I know I like, and I hadn't seen them in years. They're just in my head. I
yeah,
just knew, wow, I like these, and I don't like these other ones. But
Yeah.
actually watching it was like, yeah, that's not just nostalgia goggles. It really did it for me, and these other movies didn't. Or like rewatching The Lord of the Rings, and I was like, wow, this is so great. And
yeah,
The Hobbit just didn't measure up, and and it's not a case of older is automatically better, because people say that all the time. But it's like, if you can look at a movie with fresh eyes, because there's some movies that I grew up with that I just have watched to death, and I watch them now, and they aren't quite as good for me as they were back then. And I'd
Oh,
still
I
like honor
watched.
For
them.
sure. Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm different than you guys because I totally have no problem. I know usually very quickly when I'm going to be happy to rewatch a movie, and that
mhm.
yeah, if I go to
Sucks
pull
you in.
something off the shelf, I pull it off the
Well,
shelf and I pop it in the player and I enjoy the shit out of it.
it's all
Oh yeah,
purposeful.
I
Well,
still enjoy it, but I've like Kurgan said, I've watched the whole thing in my head before I even got it in there.
I
It's
don't
yeah.
so
know.
fun.
I can never watch the original trilogy too many times. Like that
Yeah.
will never happen for me.
Well, it took me a while to appreciate the original Star Wars, because I think I'd seen that one the least. Because I mean, when I first saw Return of the Jedi, it was like, I think I saw the original Star Wars like as part of a I don't know, a triple bill or something.
Hmm.
And I think we went to dinner, and so we missed Empire, and so I hadn't seen it like until it came out on video. Like I'd never seen it in theaters until the special editions. So it was like, but then I saw Return of the Jedi. Well, this is the one we're really going for. And it was always just like, yeah, forget the other movies. This is the best one. And then I watched them and like, okay, it's a little slower. Oh, different stuff happened. What? Like this doesn't make sense. Like there were things that I just had accepted. Like, well, of course, Darth Vader's his father. Well, of course Yoda dies, and it was like, well, that shouldn't have happened if this other movie like, or wait, what? So I could understand like as a totally different perspective than if you like watched them all in sequence, and like you were growing up with it, versus, yeah, it's like you pick up a Batman comic and you're a kid, but it's like, what about all the Batman comics from all the decades before that leading up to it? It's like, no, it's not meant
Yeah.
that way. So
Well, if your
maybe,
first entry
yeah,
was Return of the Jedi,
yeah,
seeing the revelation that they're actually twin brother and sister,
yeah.
and then you go back and you watch Empire or Star Wars, and you're like,
Ew,
ew,
they're
they're
kissing.
really throwing moves on each other.
And you
Like,
watch
ugh.
if you read the script drafts, you're like, no, that was just like a wrestling swerve that happened at the last second.
Yeah,
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 Someone
it's.
decided to throw that into the script for the third movie, and
Mhm. Yeah, well, I mean, there was going to be a sister, and there was going to be, another Hope, but we don't have time, so it's Leia. It's the only girl. It's her. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. and then you just retroactively read it all back into this. Oh, it was always meant to be that way. Yes, yes. And then when you do the prequels, you can lay the groundwork. But then, yeah, I think if we as fans could accept Star Wars as just kind of the sandbox that artists like to play in, as opposed to this genius story that was planned out from the beginning and it all makes sense, and it's such a true story, and like
It was absolutely something that was
it's
that
special, but
evolved as it was created. It was
yeah.
not some master plan.
Yeah.
And see, I think there's sort of, and it's probably like weak sauce now, but at one time it was kind of like, well, you're not a true fan unless you accept the new revised continuity. And people would, I see a little bit of it. As we transition into our first topic, HeroQuest, I see that a little bit of that in the HeroQuest community as it's coming back. Because as we know, a large chunk of it is parents getting their kids into it. People who remembered HeroQuest from back in the day. Not all, but that's a big chunk of it. But it's like,
Or trying to get your grandkids into it.
yeah, their grandkids or nieces, nephews, whatever. But there's a large number of people online that are obsessed, seemingly, with what's the correct order to play these quests in. And when we start talking about Rise of the Dread Moon, which we're definitely going to talk about, here's the title: Rise of Rants, Episode 7 of the Rantcast. It's like, I just want to say a few things. So I'm not trying to dominate the conversation, but it is my show. So, anyway, so I'm gonna give my thoughts, and I'm gonna ask you guys to kind of like come at me and tell me what you think. So, I have a lot of faith in Avalon Hill to create this Rise of the Dread Moon expansion that's coming out now. What did we say? July 15th?
15th.
July 15th of this year. So not very far away.
And it might actually be showing up at people's mailboxes earlier than that, based on
I feel like
previous kind of.
that's not been their plan. I mean, by the time Frozen Horror was announced, everybody had it, or a lot of people had it already. And so they want to be able to control it. They want to be able to have the first videos about it. They want to be the first ones to show us the miniatures. They want to be the first ones, blah, blah, blah. They want all that stuff because they can only count on a small number of fans to actually pre-order it and buy it sight unseen. Most people are going to need some convincing. That's my take. So I think they've tightened it up. Like, we could have guessed that Mage of the Mirror was coming out before Gen Con, but they kept it under wraps until then. Like, we didn't actually see it until then. Whereas Frozen Horror, it's like, the Rogue River Elathorn, all these other Guardian Knight, it's like someone finds it somewhere on some foreign website, or there's a picture from some conference, and boom, it's now everybody knows about it. It's like, okay, did they do that on purpose? Is it viral marketing? No, I think they just
I think they just didn't have tight control of their partners and the ship dates and all that stuff.
Yeah. And see, the whole thing is, the whole game that's being played, they're manipulating us, and we are happy to be manipulated because we want to know about this thing, and we want to get excited about it, and I want to be positive too, but I have some concerns about this Rise of the Dread Moon. First one, they've explicitly said that this new expansion directly follows Mage of the Mirror. And I'm thinking to myself, great. So we're going to retread what we just spent time on. And this runs the risk of being like a retcon kind of thing. Almost like they're disappointed in this quote unquote classic Mage of the Mirror. And let's redo it and make it better, it's like, you got your remake of this 1992 quest, but we're going to do it right. But then I go back against myself and I say, well, why would I think that? Why would I think that going back to the Elven Kingdom and bringing back Sinestra from the dead and all this other stuff, I know there's people that disagree and say, oh, that's not really what's happening, but why would they put a fake out on the cover? The cover is going to be staring us in the face every time we play it. So I think that's overblown. I think what you see is what you get. It's not that deep. It's not that mysterious. I don't think it's a fake cover. So when Stephen Baker we knew he was writing Prophecy of Telor for the Mythic tier. I'm going somewhere with this. Everybody was like, oh man, Stephen Baker, he's the OG. He's back. He's writing a quest. And he had the little interview where he's like, okay, yes, coming back after 30 years, such an honor. I'm so humbled to be doing this again. And it's like, and then he releases Rogar's Hall, and it's like, yeah, this is kind of too hard for a first quest. I don't know if, like, is he really going to do a good thing? And then he had that preview. You remember that preview where it's like, oh, we're going back to Melar's Maze and we're going to look for the Talisman of Lore again. And I was like, what? That doesn't sound good. So I was putting faith in him to create this Prophecy of Telor, thinking, well, everybody else says he's good, so I'll just go with what they say. Kind of like Teo Sabadia, people are saying, oh, this guy sucks. So it's like, oh, his quest pack's probably not going to be any good. Oh, Joe Manganiello, he means well, but he probably can't do it. And they ended up being okay. But I was very wrong about Prophecy of Telor. Prophecy of Telor ended up being extremely detailed and extremely interesting. I've never played it, still haven't played it yet. But every quest, I mean, I just poured over it. I went through it, and yeah, we found a lot of typos and things, but clearly he inserted a lot of lore stuff, and it was interesting. It was cool. It kind of felt like it belonged. And so just because you were going back for the Talisman of Lore, like, that was just, I mean, it could have been anything. Like, it was really its own story. It didn't feel like a retread. It didn't feel like, oh, you're revisiting all the old, Doom levels, and they're just the same as they were before. It's almost just a hook to get you interested. So by the same token,
keep in mind, I actually haven't read the. I was trying to keep Prophecy of Telor.
Oh, well, I won't spoil it for you.
Yeah, I actually haven't read it, so I mean, I know that the Talisman of Lore is involved, but
most people listening to this stream, unless you're listening to it after Prophecy of Telor is re-released in retail, you haven't read it, unless you've read someone's illegal scan from their Mythic set, or you were one of the suckers who spent $500 on a Mythic set or whatever it's going for these days, some crazy amount from scalpers online. So I think my misgiving of this being a retread is probably misplaced, but it's still in the back of my mind, because we have no idea. This is a completely original, quote unquote, expansion. So, but we know for sure it's going to be a bunch of quests. We don't know how many. People debate. Is it going to be 10? Is it going to be 14? Is it going to be 108? We don't know. Probably not going to be that many, but
I don't think it's. Yeah, I think we can rule out 100.
I had my list of predictions, which I'm still going to go through one at a time. And I don't know if it was specifically against me or just in general, but Encarming, who we know is Chris Nato from Avalon Hill Hasbro, he said, like, how could you guys be more wrong? I'm not quoting him directly. How could you guys be more wrong this time than you were the other time? Or something like that. And it's like, oh, great. And then lots of people said, yeah, but his whole job is just to fake us out right before it gets released, so that we're talking about other stuff. And so even we, jaded fans who know everything, are still surprised, quote unquote. But the thing is, because it's a new quest, we don't know really what's in there until they show us. Because my whole thing was, I'm going to just, since I don't know nothing else, I'm going to assume it follows the template of the Barbarian and Elf packs, and then what the Wizard and Dwarf packs would have been. Because if this is for the Knight, this is his pack, well, he's going to have 3 solo quests. There's going to be the 7 group quests. But then he's going to sub in for one of the other heroes, I guess, because it's still going to be 4. But that might not necessarily be true. He might be a side character, or I don't know, anything is possible. So it's kind of like we don't have a lot to go on. So I can make all these guesses, but they're probably wrong, which doesn't mean anything. We do have some new stuff. So why don't you guys go ahead and say what you want to say about reacting to my opinion there, and then we'll get into the Doug Hopkins blog post. So what do you think? Is it going to be a rehash? Is it going to be a retcon?
I mean,
no. Are you that attached to Maid of the Mirror?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm not that fussed if it is sort of a. I don't know if it's going to be a super duper direct continuation. Like it seems like, yes, there's some stuff that ties the stories together, but
metric system.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll have to wait and see what.
Sorry,
how tight
Jacer,
the.
Jacer's here. Hey, Jacer, if you want, hop into Quest Talk with us here in the Rantcast. His clue was metric system, so 10 quests fits. Oh, or it could be 20 quests, right? Or 30. That's why it's taking so long. I mean, you can whip up a quest in an hour. Is it going to be a good one though? All right, you guys talk.
I mean, it doesn't really bother me either way. I'd be fine with something that's kind of very tightly coupled from a story perspective. I'd also be fine with something that's a little looser, right? Like we had, well, we didn't, but the folks overseas had Ogre Horde and Wizards of Morcar, which, you know, directly referenced one another in their material, and nobody seems to have freaked out about that.
Yeah, it's not like you had to buy them together.
Yeah.
It's like your first movie, you go to the video store and you buy Empire Strikes Back. Oh, this looks like a cool movie. I'm like, oh, there's stuff that took place before this, and there's stuff that takes place after. Well, I can still enjoy the movie for what it is. Why not?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm mostly looking forward to, you know, they built Sir Ragnar up to be like this big character that something else was going to happen, and all you do is you rescue him, and then
you never see him again.
in anything. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing with him. I'm hoping it's not like what they did with the European version, where, you know, he turned traitor. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of.
I mean, I think
like fake out.
It seems like they were dropping some hints that maybe they're picking up that thread, but it could be, it could be misdirection.
Yeah, or they're just using that as a hook to say, oh yeah, you know, fans that are accepting this new idea of him being a bad guy, sure, you're good point. He was a bad guy in some of the lore somewhere. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like if they put, I don't know, I'm trying to think. If they put a leveling system in the game, like people like us would go, "Oh yeah, that was in the Japanese version." Yeah. And they're like, "Yeah, exactly." Even if it had nothing, even if it's like totally different, it's just the fact that we came up with an excuse. You know,
I don't want a leveling system in HeroQuest personally, but
tons of people.
I know lots of people think that the game doesn't work without it or something. And I'm just like, come on.
The leveling system is you buy all the equipment, and then for like 3 or 4 expansions, you just buy potions.
Like, okay,
that's fine.
Then you find artifacts.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm from kind of, I think, the older school of acquisition when it comes to, you know, like you look at Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, you should be finding you shouldn't be planning your
your
stuff ahead of time.
Legacy of Sorasil took it even farther. You just buy magic. It's like, I'm gonna buy a couple spells. I'll take a couple of Tempests. How about some Fire of Wrath? You know.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, but I'm only a barbarian, so it's gonna be a really crappy Fire of Wrath. Like, have the wizard buy some. He can really make it sing. You know. Like, okay.
Yeah, well, and speaking of Japanese system, I can't remember his name now. The lucky guy that got a copy of the Japanese version and a lot of games he bought. I'm both super excited for him and super jealous.
Yeah, wasn't it funny? It's like me trying to buy the German version of Space Crusade. Like, who am I kidding? Like, I've already got the game. I already know, but it's like just to have it, you know, because one of those things. Because there's so many. All that stuff that's like translated into other languages, I mean, it was never meant for us to see. It was meant for that market. And just the fact that the fandom is so big, and yet there's, when I was talking with Hispazargon, like he and I chatted for like 4 hours about this stuff. It was like, he's still finding stuff in like other languages. And it's like, no one's ever translated this. Let's put it out there.
Yep.
And, you know, just talk about how cool it is that it's like slightly different than what we know. It's like finding hidden gems. I think that's awesome. I think that's great. So I'm kind of a historian about it.
I'm really hoping that Rise of the Dread Moon goes over really, really well, so that hopefully, you know, if Carmine is listening and you know, reading all our comments all the time, but you know, the 3 mythic quests, I really hope they see light of day for everybody else. I don't feel like they should remain behind that, quote unquote paywall of being a mythic backer, which I technically wasn't because I bought mine secondhand for more than I really
More than
should
you
have
want.
paid.
Don't say how much it was. Yeah.
Well, it
Down.
was less than 500.
Oh, ouch. So
It
the
was
person
450. I don't
the
mind
person
saying.
we're talking about is Inspector Retro, and yes, I'm really happy for him.
Yes.
I've only seen scans that other people have done of the Japanese set, and I'm really grateful for his Bizargon and like a dozen other people that worked on the translations. Even if a lot of it was just machine translated, it was just so cool
Yeah.
to just see that. And it's like I'm sure that Hasbro has all that material and they can always draw from it. And if they see that like we're interested in it, why wouldn't they,
Right.
reference it or use it? That doesn't mean everything that worked in that system is going to work in this system, because you got to remember, like, the characters played totally differently. All the monsters like were worth gold. The magic system level, evolved as you went through the quest. So there's like all these other things that are different. The limited quantity that you could buy from the armory, all that stuff. But people
Yeah.
like their leveling systems. Hey, Jacer, welcome to the Rantcast. Talking some HeroQuest.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, so
I was just saying is like the Frozen Horror and Mage of the Mirror was kind of like leveling up the elf and the barbarian.
good
So
point. Yep.
it's
Even-
kind of like
Yeah.
there's certain artifacts that do that, and like the rings of fortitude, like that being introduced in the new one, that is kind of like a leveling system.
That's true. Even if it's just, I found this object that now makes me that powered up.
Right.
Right.
And then but artifacts and equipment kind of, add to your defense and your attack, so that kind of alters your other stats anyway. And then you got your temporary buffs with your spells or your spell scrolls, which
Yep.
are still as an artifact.
Yep. And I want to acknowledge this. You made me think of something here. I want to acknowledge something that happened on the Avalon Hill Discord. I think a couple of people like took me as kind of like some kind of bully or jerk or whatever, because Avalon Bill answered some question about how does the courage spell work, and he said, well, it only works for one attack. And I was like, no, wrong. I mean, I didn't curse at him or anything. I didn't call him an idiot, but it was just like, I was like, no, that's not how it worked. That's not how it's ever worked, except in the first edition. And I was just kind of shocked that he would even say that. And I thought, well, is someone maybe playing a prank on him, or maybe he's just like, because a lot of these guys, I mean, they've probably been poring over these notes and they've been going back and forth, between what they're going to do, and maybe they have something in their head and it's not really what's on the page. And so he just said it. So it's like, I'm not faulting him, but it was just like, no, that's not what it is. And then he quickly came back with, but you can play it however you want. It's like, yeah, that's the right answer. But I just like when I was talking about how people are so obsessed.
Well, my
with playing
first
them in order.
comment on that same thing is that it was
yeah.
worse than a potion of strength.
Yeah, it's like, why make that change now?
I mean, I don't.
It's like George
my
Lucas
guess
saying,
is,
"Well, I always intended." Yeah, but you didn't put it in the movie, so who cares?
Yeah. The word, they basically inherited the wording though from the original US version.
Right.
And that's already been something people have argued about for decades, is what does it mean that it doesn't end until, monsters are out of your line of sight, except that at the same time.
Well, I think it's kind of like if it I've had other people point things out to me that I never thought about with the game, like Dust of Disappearance. It doesn't say it uses an action, so it doesn't. That's what people say, and it's just like, oh, I guess you're right, it doesn't.
Well, it's what does it mean to say it buffs your next attack? And it's like, I'm like, well, as long as the spell's still active, your next attack is still your next attack.
You're always going to have an next attack unless your character dies.
Right.
Right.
So it has to be used. Well, I guess you could just decide not to attack. So it's like, yeah, but if you ever do have another attack, it's going to work. But you're not going to attack if there's. It's not like you're going to flail around in the room with your sword because there's no monsters there. It's like, oh, you wasted it. It's like, no, it's impossible to waste it. But after the first attack, well, there could be more. And that's explicitly what the second edition says. The first edition makes no distinctions, and so it's the wording is very, very similar to the potion. So it would be reasonable to assume that the potion of strength and courage are the same. Just like rock skin and potion of resilience, which was later called potion of defense, are the same. In the second edition, they explicitly say, no, it keeps on going until it's broken. And when it's broken, when there's no monsters visible, or you can't see monsters. And then in the North American version, they just refined it a bit because, as we know in the North American version, they changed seeing to like line of sight. You have to draw lines to everything. In the European version,
they also
you don't draw lines
botched
except in.
They took the first sentence from the first edition, and then they took the line of sight thing from the second edition and crammed them together.
You mean in the remake?
In the original, no, in the original U.S. version. It says next attack, not each attack. Right? The
next attacks plural.
No, it says next attack singular. Yeah,
so it could have been
poorly worded.
So
Okay.
Yeah. Fair enough. So you could say, well, your next attack, it starts the sequence, or it might not. It might just stop. But then it's like, I see what you're saying. So the refinement in the remake was to say they refined the line of sight to mean seeing to be line of sight.
Yeah, but they forgot
didn't refine.
Yeah, they didn't refine the first part.
So for Avalon Bill to come back a year later and say, well, what we always meant all along was.
George Lucas, he doesn't know what they always meant.
Right. And it's almost
he knows how he knows how the current people maybe would interpret it.
Yeah, which is fine. All. It's kind of like, and I don't know who else besides, I think Karningul, you've read the draft notes for Barbarian and Elf, right?
Some of them.
Jacer, Angus, have you guys read them? Or any of them that Luke Apache had, the scans? Photocopy.
For what again?
So
I did look at them.
There are these draft notes from 91, 92 of the Barbarian and Elf packs and some unreleased packs. Like what they were talking about. They were talking about refining the rules and like changing them. And they were like throwing around ideas.
I might have. I know I read the ones about the proposed dwarf and wizard packs.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't remember reading about those two.
Well, it's kind of an open secret. So Amalgam Ash has talked about him on his stream. So like several people in the community know about him. But anyway, I'm not trying to say like, oh, it's insider information. But the thing is, like, all along the developers were making changes. Like we've seen that. So yeah, you have the first edition to the second edition. You have the North American edition. You have when they were making these new expansions for the North American market, they were talking about changing rules that had been in place all this time, like the 2 attacks. There was never any clarification saying, well, if you attack with the Heroic Brew, the second attack is even stronger because they can't defend against it. But they came up with the Polar Warbearer rule. So that was a new thing. But they were also talking about allowing a single hero to search like a whole room, like search each piece of furniture individually. So it's like, wait a minute, so he gets multiple searches per room? Would that have made the game better? Ultimately, they didn't put it in either because they ran out of time or they just decided, nah, that's stupid. That doesn't actually.
Yeah, that would have really dragged the game out.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so now it takes 4 times as long to find all the treasure. But I mean, if you're having a good time, I could see a Zargon going like, yeah, let's build up the suspense. Okay, the tomb is empty. The chest is empty. Oh man, what's in that cupboard? Oh, it's the thing you were looking for. Yeah, like, okay, that's kind of cool. But they were also talking about how, you remember, people make a big deal about this. You're looking at a quest map and there's a treasure chest with a pit trap right next to it. Okay, that makes no sense because despite what people say, you don't have to walk up to the chest to actually get the thing out of it. All you got to do is be in the room, anywhere in the room, say you're searching for treasure.
Can I just object to that thematically?
Go ahead.
Like, what if the chest was originally in the pit and somebody dug it up, maybe fought for it and died. So you're just falling into a pit that you probably, just didn't notice because you saw the chest. It's more like, yes, you
It's hilarious.
don't fall in it. It's not that the chest was trapped. It's just that there happened to be a trap there.
I hear you, but I'm not thinking of it like in a story sense. I'm just thinking in a mechanics sense. Like it's sort of
Right.
like
And,
if you made a Super Mario Brothers level where there's a pit that you can fall into, but you put the pit somewhere that the player's never going to go. What's the point? It's just wasted space now. So they're going to see it and they're going to go, "I'm so smart because I defeated the game because there's no way." So, but what I'm trying to say is like,
but if you're trying to get all 4 heroes in that room before you search, or you don't think to search for traps, or you're skirting a monster, there's still a chance you're going to hit it.
I didn't think about that. Yeah,
I mean,
if you squeeze
I
all the
get what
heroes
you're
into the room,
saying, but the chest could still be trapped even with another trap next to it. Or you could
Yep.
go and say, "Oh, I'll put the dwarf over there in case I have to disarm it," and he falls in a trap.
The quest I'm thinking of though, this wouldn't work. That would work in, and I think I've proven that it is an absolute error in. Oh, I'm gonna get it wrong. Is it Lair of the Orc Warlord, the North American version? There's a treasure chest with nothing in it and a pit trap right next to it. And the way some people play the game is they do have a house rule where they say you got to walk up right up adjacent to the chest and say I'm opening it, just like you're opening a door. Then you open it and you see the treasure, but you have to search for treasure to actually pull it out. That's how some
weird.
people play.
I haven't heard of that last part before, I don't think.
Because otherwise, it's like, why would you ever search for treasure? Oh, there's no furniture, so you know it's going to be cards. So you just say, give me a card, Zargon. Here, like I don't know, but the original quest, the European version of that, spoilers, you search for treasure, and if you didn't disarm the trap first, you get hit with a trap. Doesn't say what it is, just says takes away 1 body point, and you find, I think it's 100. Yeah, I think it's 100 gold coins inside it. But then instead of having like that letter, they just put a pit there, and I guess they were going to add something, but they just forgot. And so then when the remake comes out, they just reprinted that error. But still, to this day, you have people arguing about, how it should work. But anyway, the in the draft notes they were talking about, and I know we need to talk about Rise of the Dread Moon here. They were talking about revising. It's still relevant. They're revising the rules and saying, okay, we've got a treasure chest that doesn't have any traps on it, but it's got a ring of spear traps around it, like in a diamond shape. And it's this big, huge room. So Jacer's idea of having all the heroes walk in and each getting a turn and like accidentally stumbling on it is not going to happen, unless again they're purposely walking up to the trap or walking up to the chest. But they were saying, let's again along the lines of searching every piece of furniture. Well, what if we make it so that they can like search each piece of furniture individually, so they're going to go up to it. But the fact that they can search for traps and realize there's traps there, and so say, just kidding, I'm going to search for treasure and get it. Like, I don't know, is this kind of a stream of consciousness thing? They were saying, well, we'll put a monster in the room, and we'll put the monster right next to the chest. So the hero will walk up to the chest to attack the monster and fall in the spear trap. Haha. But then it's like, yeah, but unless you get a crossbow. It was like, well, so you're making a reason for them to go up to the chest that they didn't need to do before. So I don't know. I think probably what happened is the person probably made the quest just kind of assuming in their head, well, they got to walk up to the chest to open it.
Yeah.
And then
I
later
think-
someone was trying to salvage it and go, yeah, well, that could make sense if this did this, rather than just going, you forgot the mechanic doesn't work that way.
I mean, I think that I've seen in a couple places people where it really feels to me like they're attributing way more intention to the original developers than I think they actually had.
Yeah, they were up late. Because it's totally. I mean,
It's a game for kids. Like,
yeah, well, and even like so anybody that's been in school or you're writing a term paper late at night, like you think, yeah, I nailed it, and then the next day you read it after you printed it out and you're about to turn it in, you're like, oh, why did I put half of a sentence here and half of I forgot the footnote, I misspelled some word. This is dumb. Like, I looked at it 100 times. It's like, yeah, but you were tired, or You've seen it. You need a fresh pair of eyes. So a lot of that, yeah, can be attributed to just, yeah, they're making a simple game for kids. Zargon could fix it on the fly, and they just didn't have enough time to play test it. And I think with this Rise of the Dread Moon, they've given themselves, hopefully, enough time to play test it, because they can't rely on the nostalgia. They can't rely on the idea that, oh, this was the one that got away. It's like, this is something brand new. So yes, they've built up a lot of goodwill.
I also doubt that they thought that, or I would guess that they didn't expect most players maybe to analyze the game to the extent
that we have.
Well, and I think that has
Other stuff.
become maybe the norm in gaming in general.
To fight
if that
about
makes
it, argue about
sense.
it.
No, just to analyze things and like figure out, well, what's the optimal way to do, like,
chess
because I can totally picture in the early 90s, a 12-year-old kid just being like, oh, there's a treasure chest in this room. I'm going to run over to it and see what's in it. And they just, without actually thinking about whether the rules require it, move themselves next to the chest and then declare that they're searching for treasure.
And
it's like, oh, if you stick a pit trap in front of the chest, what's going to happen? They're going to go fall in the pit.
Right.
And it looks like, good when you're drawing the map.
Did they have to fall in the pit? No, but they weren't thinking about it at that level.
Yeah, their excitement got the better of them. What were you saying, Jacer?
I said, and when you're drawing up the map and doing it, it looks good on the paper when you're drawing the map, or like I said, that's why
around the castle.
It looks good even for like Sargon. And if you wanted to do something, you can. And also, it allows them to still get the treasure without having a toolkit to disarm the trap on the chest.
That is a good point, because I think there is an elf quest.
Otherwise, you got to wait for the dwarf to get into that room, and if the dwarf is dead, then you really have no other shot to have somebody tag the damage.
Spoilers again. So, elf quest pack number 1. There's a trap that can be disarmed, but since you don't have a toolkit, because you can't possibly have one because you're the elf, it's impossible to disarm it unless you're not a first-time player and you've actually already brought equipment with you. But they supposedly designed these quests with the idea that a first-time player with a brand new character could do it. So go figure.
Which is mostly hogwash.
Yeah, I mean,
no brand new character. Even an experienced player is not getting through those solo quests with
not unless,
a brand new character.
Not unless Zargon really pulls his punches or modifies the quest, or you just get darn lucky. Which I'm kind of against the idea that a quest is going to be won by luck and you're just going to replay it and replay it and replay it until you get it right.
Yeah, no,
because that doesn't work anyway. Either. Because the rules also say that Zargon's supposed to remix the quest, so it's like you're never going to memorize it. It's like if he shuffles the deck every time, you're never going to necessarily always get exactly the card that you counted to get. But anyway, I think the general philosophy that they should keep in mind, and I'm sure they have this in mind, is that we all know that as hardcore fans, we're probably going to buy this, even if it sucks. Hate to say it. We might be mad after the fact.
Well, I mean, if it sucks, we'll buy this, but we may not necessarily buy the one after it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, I'm going to wait for other people to buy it first. But people are going to say, well, it's got good miniatures. I'll buy it for the miniatures. Oh, I want to support the brand, so I'm going to do that. And people like us are going to say, yeah, I can just fix it. I can fix it in post. I've got the imagination. I've got the time. But a lot of people are not of that mindset. These are the people who are so obsessed with playing them in order. These are the people that are always asking, well, how does that rule really work? There's people that are looking for wiggle room, but there's a lot of people who are like, I want to do it the way the company says. And so if they give us some rules that are broken, if they give us some quests that don't make sense, if they give us some lore that just screws everything up, that's going to hurt the brand. So I hope they really, really carefully consider all the stuff. And yes, we can still change it afterwards. But not everybody has had their mind open to that. I'm sounding like really arrogant here, but not everyone has been enlightened to say, oh, the game can be whatever you want it to be. Yeah, but then I don't need to buy your game, do I? Anyway.
I mean, you may want to buy it for the components.
Yeah, but I've already got components.
Yeah.
I can use something else for that
Yeah,
character.
I mean, I really hope that they. Yeah, I mean, I really hope they nail it.
Yeah, I hope it's successful. They've said explicitly, we have plans through 2026.
Right.
But I mean, if this, it's like a lot of things. Like I think of like Lucasfilm. They have a project that loses money. All of a sudden, projects start getting canceled. People start getting canned. They start getting desperate. They start changing. So I mean, there's going to be a redirect if it doesn't pan out the way they want to. All right. So
Which I think that was the wrong direction on that. They should have figured out what went wrong to correct it
right.
instead of just pulling the whole rug out from under it. But
Yeah,
yeah, like you're
that's
saying,
another story.
I'm if it ends up being not any good, I'll still buy the next one. Like you said, hoping that it'll be good. But
Mm.
um,
It depends on how badly they
I-
screw it up, I guess.
yeah, I can't imagine that they would screw it up too bad.
Yeah.
I'm going to be curious to see where it falls difficulty-wise, right?
Yeah.
Because it's following on from Mage of the Mirror and Frozen Horror, which are probably overtuned from a difficulty perspective, if anything.
I'm
But it's going to kind of be like, but if Dread Moon is suddenly
the Dark
more on
Souls.
par with like Return of the Witch Lord in difficulty or something, that's going to be a huge drop off from the content that you've already played.
Well, all they see here's how they make those people happy. Just say, "Oh, this takes place before."
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, you thought that this took place after Mage of the Mirror.
Right.
Actually, there was time travel involved. So you passed through the mirror into
Yeah.
the realm of reflection, and while you were there, you saw a possible future that Lore Tome had foreseen. Don't you follow the lore, bro? It's like they can always just. And then the lore nerds who are really obsessed will go, "Oh yes, that makes so much sense. Thank you for explaining. That's the way it was all along, all along." Yeah, and then
all along.
whatever. Because yeah, I mean, you're not necessarily going to play. I'm just thinking of you're playing the solo quests. These are your first adventures, and you've never played the game system. You've never played Keller's Keep, Return of the Witch Lord. The first ones you played are the Frozen Horror. And actually, on HeroQuest fans, that's how we started. We didn't start playing these other quests. We started playing the Frozen Horror, and several of the people in our group had never played HeroQuest before. So boom.
Maybe Ogre Horde and Wizards of Morkar takes place in the mirror realm.
Yep.
That happens after this, where Morkar's in charge.
Deep inside another dimension. Yep.
I think it would be. I think it would be absolutely hilarious if they decide to introduce Morkar as a character.
Yep, he and Palpatine were not the same person. Somehow, Grimdead returned. Yeah, I want to acknowledge something Elviler said a while back here. So Jacer was talking about artifacts being the leveling system. Elviler says your XP is gold, and the actual experience of completing quests, that's your leveling system. Simple. Yeah. In the
Yep.
end, we got to just understand that this is a game for 9, 10-year-olds and people like us who have the mentality of 10-year-olds. I'm just kidding. No, not like that. But no, we enjoy the game, and we're trying to make it enjoyable for kids too. And so I think there's a little bit of that protective feeling. It's like I want their experience to be the fun experience I had, not like so many other things. Like, oh, you're going to see the crappy Star Wars. No, I want to show you the good Star Wars. Or I want you to see the good Harry Potter. I want you to see the good Lord of the Rings, whatever. I don't want you to have your experience tainted. They may not think the same thing of it that we do, but at least give them a good shot. So yeah, I think if I think it would be a mistake to try to imitate the difficulty of Frozen Horror Mage of the Mirror as they were originally published. I think that's a mistake because I think those are broken, and I think it's because they were rushed out and not play tested well. They had a lot of interesting ideas. They were not well refined, and so they had to go back and make fixes.
Yep.
To try to make them fun for the average player. And then, yeah, just the mystique of, oh, this was the pack that we never got to buy back in the 90s. That got us old school fans interested, and we talked it up. But yeah, when I say that this is like agreeing with Amalgamash and other people have said this, if we take this as the Night Quest pack and it's following the template of what's come before, I'm talking about in terms of like how the quests are divided up, how the new hero is treated, and he gets special artifacts, he gets special potions. Not
I
about the
don't
difficulty, because I think the difficulty is way off.
I don't know why, but I don't know that it seems super likely to me that they're gonna focus on the night. I mean, maybe they will. I guess it hadn't even occurred to me that might be the
Well, because
direction they were going until you said it a few
oh
minutes
really?
ago.
Well,
Yeah.
it's because they got rid
I
of
don't think
they
they
got rid
are
of the
because if
subtitles.
they're tweaking the potions to be non-specific, why would they make specific night potions?
Yeah.
Maybe night artifacts or
Well, they still could.
warrior-based
Yeah.
artifacts?
Well, see, here's what they do.
Possible.
They'll give them a bunch of night potions, and in the next pack you'll get even more alchemist deck, which are the old night potions, which now anyone can use, and they could just keep dragging us
Maybe.
through the broken glass forever, right? No, I
Yeah.
don't. I have no
I don't
idea.
know.
I have
Yeah.
no
I
idea.
guess to me it was just bringing the knight back seemed like a
Any
big enough
excuse.
splash
Yeah, any
where
excuse
I
to
was
have
like,
them in the box because yeah, they apologized for the fact that the Guardian Knight was an exclusive, and now they're bringing him in, so you'll have another chance. But for all we know, he's just shoehorned in there. Maybe he has like no big role in the plot. He's just there. I kind of don't think that's the case because he's so prominent on the box. But because with anything else, like the Rogue is on the box too. So is the Rogue going to be in the box? Because if not, it's like why would you feature that character? Because people that buy
I
it might
mean,
not have it. So it's like,
the
oh,
dwarf
if you have the Rogue, here's what they do in this quest. But if you don't, never mind.
the dwarf is on the cover of Keller's Keep. Is there an extra dwarf in the box?
No, but I mean, you could say that. Well, it's a different dwarf because he's light skinned instead of dark skinned. But anyway, they changed that in the
Touche.
remake. If you look at the dwarf on the character sheet, that's the white dwarf, the white hair and dark skin from White Dwarf magazine,
Then
Games Workshop. But
Yeah,
then on Keller's Keep, he's like a paler complexion. See, there's
I'm
more
just
than one.
joking, right? Like,
However you paint him.
just because you put something on the box
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
mean it has to be in the
well,
box.
that was again. I'm going to reference Amalgamash again. Is the male elf was on the 1992 Made to the Mirror box. In the remake, they got rid of him and made him a miniature, which he had never been before. And they put the female elf from the remake game system on the box, holding weapons and gear that she never has on the miniature. See, because it's not like Warhammer where the figure is supposed to have the exact gear and look that they have. It's like it's just a focus for your imagination. You don't have to paint him the same way. It can just be anything. This is Jim, the blonde-haired, barbarian. It's like no, it's Erasmataz, the purple-haired, green-skinned barbarian, who's shorter than average. Whatever. All right. So guys, let's move on to. We're not going to move on to Star Wars yet because we got lots more HeroQuest to talk about. We're already into the second hour, so congratulations. Glad you're here. Let's pull up the Doug Hopkins blog post that everybody's already talked about, but we got to get our licks in on this one. So let's get you old browser. Okay, so this is Hasbro Pulse. I'm sure you all have seen this. So this image here, of course, is just a blow up of the box art. So we've already talked about all these images here. I actually went through and like tried to count them all and say, well, maybe there's oh yeah, my predictions. My predictions. So I was saying, okay, there's 3 specters. There's 10 elven knights with a sword and a shield. There's 12 elven spearmen, 2 elven archers, 1 elven mage, 1 guardian knight, 1 Sir Ragnar. But I mean, just because it's on the box doesn't mean it's in the box. Like as we've seen, the artwork can be just a suggestion. So it's complete speculation. But back to the article. So this is Doug Hopkins. He's the same guy who designed the free quests. So other than Rogar's Hall, all the digital online quests, Forsaken Tunnels was Orzel was him, New Beginnings was him, Into the Northlands was him. He was the guy that talked about each of the new heroes, the Druid, the Warlock, and the Bard, even though other people were brought in to do the artwork. Oh yeah, that's another thing to acknowledge. This is all in-house. But Doug Hopkins is the only person they've like named as someone who's working on it. We know Stephen Baker is not. Whoever the other designers are, maybe it's just him. I mean, maybe he's the only one writing it and someone else does the art and then somebody else does the miniatures. I don't know. But for now, it's him talking. So he's talking about the design team has been hard at work on the latest adventure of the HeroQuest world. So we brought, they're talking to Doug. So brought Doug back to tell everyone more about it. Take it away. So he says, okay, Rise of the Dread Moon is upcoming HeroQuest expansion. We can't pull back the whole curtain today, but we can share a little bit about why you should be excited to play these quests. More cunning foes. We want Zargon to have more fun. How do you direct your minions optimally when 6'7" of solid muscle is standing in a doorway brandishing a broadsword menacingly? See, he didn't use the metric system, and not letting anyone past. We are giving Zargon monsters with spells and abilities to challenge our heroes' game strategies. Do monsters with strategic maneuvering and coordinated attacks sound good to you? Meet the Spectre. Spectres are ghostly undead monsters who pass right through heroes, walls, and other solid objects. I missed that the first time. Other solid objects. What, like doors? Furniture? They channel dread energy to snuff the life from the living, regardless of the armor they rely too heavily upon. Oh, and they are even deadly in numbers. So there's more than one. So as you can see, we've got this image of a monster, which people have made fun of. Whatever. This is back when it was just a blurry image. I was like, mermaid? What is it? So 8 movement squares, 3 attack, 3 defense, only 1 body point. So it's like a Femmer, but it's weaker, and it's got 0 mind points. Each specter is undead. That's undefined. Ethereal. That's undefined. And may cast the following dread spell at will, channel dread.
I mean, I'm assuming that stuff's defined in the book somewhere.
Sorry, I should take it back. Undead is defined in the sense that the Spirit Blade attacks with 3 dice, and it's 4 dice if it's an undead, which previously was skeletons, zombies, mummies. They never really, define anything else that well, and especially the Witch Lord. So, okay, people were saying that. And then people were also saying, even though Holy Water doesn't say anything about specters, because they hadn't thought them up yet, maybe Holy Water would kill it. But what else that means, we don't know. We don't know what ethereal means. But yeah, there's probably, like you say, there's probably an explanation in the quest book. And so there's other details we just don't know, which they could be tweaking right now as we speak, or they could be. I mean, I part of me thinks that, yeah, they're either just working hard on it and they're going to release it later, or they don't have it done yet.
Could be an artifact that somehow manipulates that, or another dread spell that works with.
Oh, like maybe all the ethereal monsters in the room get this buff, but no one else does, or something like that. Yeah,
or there could be like a blade that affects ethereal but not undead.
Yeah, like a spirit.
Kind of like the
ghost, the witch blade will only kill ethereal monsters, but the undead just laugh at it. Yeah, who knows? Very special.
Or ghost fire, like a spell or something, or a spell scroll.
We have imagination, so we could be going down a completely wrong direction from what they actually have in mind, and we wouldn't know it until it comes out. So they've got to tell us more information before we can decide if this is really like a good or a bad thing. Now, they're saying the whole point of this is because the door blocking technique, which they taught us how to do in the rulebook back in 1989, they're trying to subvert that and say, well, you're not safe because this monster can just pass through the wall and attack you, and oh, you've got plate armor. Well, who cares? They can just attack you with this spell, this channel dread, which I'm going to call channel chaos because dread, chaos, it's always the same. This spell may be cast on any one hero to exhaust their life force. Roll 1 red die. For each monster adjacent to the caster that can cast this spell, add 1 point to the die total. On a 1, 2, or 3, the hero resists the spell. On a 4 or 5, the hero loses 1 body point. On 6 plus, the hero loses 2 body points. Seems pretty powerful. And if there's 3 specters, we're just guessing, I mean, there could be like 15 specters. Probably not, but a lot of people are guessing that the 3 there are all 3 that there are, maybe. Unless this is a specter over here, this little face. But
I mean, I wouldn't read the numbers. I wouldn't try to read too much into the specific numbers depicted in the artwork.
yeah, because we're assuming this is a miniature, but what if it's like a tile? I mean, usually.
The Spectre, I would assume it's a miniature, but
Mhm.
I would probably look at things that are more like, well, how many, how many miniatures are typically in these things?
Yeah, right.
Rather than how many things are on the box. It's like, well,
Yeah. Well, and it gets thrown off a little bit because
There's 4 ogres, there's 4 skeletons, so it could be
4
4,
chaos
but then
warriors, 3
there's 3.
ephemeris. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, because this is a new pack, see, we went through the same game with the last 2 remakes. We guessed, oh, it's going to be just like the last one. Like the Frozen Horror gave us new dice. Okay, well, there's a room in the box. There's going to be new dice in the Elf one. Nope, there was furniture. Okay.
Yeah.
We didn't. So they might put in any number of things. It could be something totally different. But yeah, it's reasonable to assume that there's probably a finite number of these plastic figures, and they're the ones. So there's more than one. 3 would make sense. But I mean, they only have 1 body point. They may be easily killed, and the quest itself might be like littered with them, because it's like monsters don't exist until you activate them. So there could be like 3 in one room, 3 in the next room, 3 in another one.
Another thing with the
Yeah.
keywords is that there could be a possibility that if you don't have enough specters, you could replace it with something with that keyword. So it'd be
Yeah.
undead. You could put a
Another
mummy in
undead.
there, or
Yeah.
another ethereal.
Yeah. Well, and that's like going back to the game system. The game system says if a monster is called for that you don't have, like you've run out of miniatures, like let's say the heroes are running from room to room or whatever, or someone didn't design the quest with thinking it through, you're supposed to substitute a monster of the same color. In the later packs, they had to change that because most of the figures were blue, so it's not like you could just have green for green and white for white or whatever. So it was just a monster of similar strength. So if you run out of specters, yeah, they could introduce a new rule and say it's this, as opposed to just saying, yeah, some other monster that has 1 body point or that attacks with 3 dice, something like that. But one comment that was early on with a lot of the magics, I think, and Carmine made a statement which I really liked, and I kind of want to quote it directly. So I'm just going to pull it up just because I can. Let's see. He said it in the Discord. Maybe some of you saw it. I just call it in Carmine's scenario for most players. Then there are some questions I simply can't help but giggle at because the rules are pretty clear, but someone is trying to really squeeze it into a level of complexity that HeroQuest was simply never intended for, which is just super fandom, I suppose. However, if someone at me, I will always read the post and answer if it's something I can, unless the question is rhetorical. So anyway, but yeah, I just like that because I hope that we don't come across as such obsessive, obnoxious people or toxic fans that it's like, oh, they don't dare contradict what we say because we'll be enraged like I got at Avalon Bill at one time. No, but it's just like, yeah, we've been playing the game. We know the game. Let the knowledgeable people say something about it. And they don't need to step in unless, well, we're changing that, or our pack is going to be a little bit different. And yes, you always get people saying like, well, I can wear plate armor over the top of chainmail, right? Or the druid can use all the wizard spells, right?
Reverse that you have to buy the chainmail before you can even buy the plate.
It's had a little bit of a problem. Shout out to Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Welcome to our guest, Polsky. Thank you for banning those bots. Got to keep those AI from taking over. Okay, so are we good now?
Seems like it.
Okay. Well, I'll of course have to come
Blame
back
the
and
bots.
re-edit this later. Yep. Yeah, the bots will have their revenge. Okay, so we're talking Rise of the Dread Moon. So yeah, so the Spectre, I think my comment was this. Some people were saying, well, if a Spectre is by any other monster, it automatically gets the boost. I'm interpreting it as it's got to be another Spectre. I mean, unless there's other ethereals. But they're saying any other monster that has this same Channel Dread spell. So that kind of limits it.
That's the way the spell is written.
Yeah,
It says
exactly.
that other monsters that can cast this spell. I think now I don't know whether there will be any right out of the box, but it does mean
Yeah, I'm thinking
that
like
opens it up
Dread
to if you want
Sorcerer
to.
and other Spectres. But yeah, you're making your own quest. It'd be an easy way to make it really hard.
You could write a spellcaster in there that has the spell, and then put some specters in the room, and be like, oh, they can all team up.
Yeah. Now the other thing is this particular character has the Dread spell, Channel Dread, which they can use at will, so they can use it every turn. Why would they ever just do the physical attack then?
Physical attack is rolling 3 dice.
Yeah, at close range. So
Like,
I don't know. I guess they could decide
A chance to inflict 3 damage on a character that doesn't have armor.
Yeah, or let's see, each skull is or each die is a 50% chance of getting a skull versus you roll the red die. I don't know. Yeah, I guess there could be a situation where you might.
Well, what if it's a lone specter?
Yeah, they're not getting the bonus, so there's a chance it won't do that much. So have a chance to do 3 skulls worth of damage versus maybe only get 1 or 2. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
There could be a spellcaster that has a spell that says summon specters.
Yeah.
And also has Channel Dread.
Yeah, exactly. There's all these other things, and it matters too how the quest is set up. We don't know the monster placement. So some people were looking at this and saying, "Oh, this is OP," but I mean, if they design the quests well and yeah, the complementary situation.
I say it has the potential to be abused.
Yeah.
More than it being OP itself.
What if there's a potion that will restore any damage taken from Channel Dread? And you can find some of those. Maybe there's an ethereal healing spell or something. I don't know. There's so many possibilities. We just don't know. So they obviously put this out because they wanted to get our reactions.
Yeah, spiritual warmth.
Spiritual warmth. Yeah. Holy water. I mean, like I was saying, holy water has more than one use. Not just killing a undead. Maybe it boosts you up some other way. Heals damage.
Doesn't it? Or restores a mind point or something.
Yeah, exactly. Now the next part, alchemical experimentation. And you know me, alchemists, I love them. So I was all over this. But we were thinking, okay, officially they're going to have a potions deck, like an actual dedicated, not just, oh, here's some equipment cards and they're on cards, and they're the potions from the alchemist shop. So our wizard has been hard at work brewing potions, this is Doug again, to help our heroes meet the challenge of the Dread Moon. You will see some old favorite elixirs, but without previous hero limitations. Okay, that's a big deal. Because elf and barbarian packs had 3 out of the 4 could only be used by the title character. And that's why they said, well, but if you own other expansions, you can go ahead and have them buy those potions too. Which that in the draft notes, they went back and forth. They were like, well, we don't want to assume people bought everything, but we kind of want them to buy everything. So, yeah, the value of some potion reagents has fluctuated in this war-torn economy, so you may see some changes to the gold coin value of some of our potions. See, that's something that's easy to do in a video game, like, oh, the stuff is, a different price. But with this, you're either making it up or you're, having more cards. Cards are just piling up. When playing an older quest, Zargon can price potions as they are presented in that material, or use these new costs if their dread powers command it. So, giving people permission to do what they want to do. When should I play this expansion? Where does it fall on the HeroQuest timeline? See, this is the influence of those fans. I've given them such a hard time. I mean, I don't really care, but it's like, if you're waiting to own the Mythic set before you're going to play like a certain quest, it's like, just play the one that you want to play. Why not? We see, and I don't mind like resetting heroes. Like, do you guys mind? Like, like if we're gonna play a new quest, like starting over with a new hero, it's like no, I've got to have the hero that I've had all this time.
I mean, I like the idea of playing a long-running game
Continuity.
with continuity, but if it's like I'm sitting down with some new people or something, it's like, yeah, we could start somewhere different and just have fresh heroes. That's fine.
Or conversely, how about this? So as you guys know, and anybody who's seen HeroQuest fans on Twitch stream, just plugging myself there, I pass the hero on to the next person. So like if Karningul's playing, but Strange Bus was playing last week, and before that it was Darkhawk, or before that it was PSK. It's like it's the same hero. So like all the stuff that that other guy found like a couple weeks ago is yours now, and next week is going to be someone else's. Like, do you feel cheated when that happens, or are you like,
I don't.
I've got extra gear? No, I should have earned it myself.
I mean, I think it might depend a little if you're introducing someone for the very first time and you heap a bunch of equipment and potions on them that they may not necessarily know how to use.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Well,
but
we had pretty good mileage with Sir Death. I mean, he was like, yeah, I haven't gotten to play these game system quests with people before, so I'm just playing it. And so we just had like basic heroes. We didn't carry over, even though we had another campaign going with all kinds of stuff we could have thrown in to make it way easier. But yeah, you're right. It's like some people pick the barbarian because he doesn't have anything. Like I don't want all 20 cards on my pile that I have to worry about. And I saw that like when Strange Bus was like playing as the pirate, which was the bard. It's like, well, now wait a minute, you're gonna have to help me with how do these spells work? Oh yeah, like you should probably use this now. Like, and it was fine because we were doing the companion app. All right. Anyway, so
yeah, something you run into sometimes is people who just it's not part of their mindset that more complexity isn't just always better for everybody. And it's like, hey, not everybody always thinks that way. Or there's some people where they're like, I like this game when I want something complex, and I like this other thing when I want something simple, and I don't want the one to turn into the other.
Yeah, it's like exactly right. It's like you could be playing Dungeons and Dragons, but maybe there's a reason you're playing this instead. It's not that, well, I'd rather be playing that. And it's like, no, I want to play this. And so I don't want to do an uncommon feat. I don't want to do extra role playing. I just want to roll the dice and flip the card, and I'm happy. And this is cool. And I can still be part of the group and have fun. It's like, that's cool. That's
what you're saying about character continuity. One of the YouTube channels I was watching, they were playing. They're doing a whole run through of all the HeroQuest quests. It was a Kaze channel. But anyway, those guys were potion hoarders, and they had a new player filling in as the wizard, I think, and he was using potions left and right. And the other guy's like, "Oh my god, this guy's gonna kill you when he finds out what you did."
Because he's not gonna have any left. Well, yeah, my thing is,
I played potions, keeping it from dying.
I've played video games where it's like, yeah, I save up all these things, but that's because I looked ahead to see how many levels are left, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna need them. But yeah, if you don't know, or maybe it's just the one session you're playing, it's like, might as well. I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna use them up. Yeah, I think there was some quest pretty recently where the wizard was just throwing spells out, but it's like he was using them intelligently. It's just like some people would save them, he wanted to use them, so it's like, go for it.
Yeah, that's one of the beefs I do have with the game is once the wizard or the elf have used up all their spells. I mean, at least the elf still can attack somewhat decently, but the wizard,
the wizard is going to be like hiding behind people. So yeah, he tends to play conservatively. That's what a lot of people said. And you can give him more stuff, but then you run the risk of turning him into a demigod, as far as that goes. So I don't know. It's all relative, but I try to explain it as the wizard being weak or powerful isn't that big a deal to me because I see him as part of the team. He's not like off on his own, having his own adventure by himself, and he has to win it all by himself. Even in a solo quest, you could design the quest such that he's going to face foes that he can handle, or he's going to find an ally that's going to help him. That's what Dave Morris did in his quest for the wizard, the solo quest. It's like, oh, he finds a barbarian, and the barbarian will help you out, but you just got to make sure you pay him a share of the gold, you know.
Yeah, it's PSK playing him, then he's gonna go off on his own.
Yeah. Well, and see, PSK, I loved it because he, was trying to challenge me as a GM to like say, well, can you handle the fact that one of the players is going to decide to do something else? Maybe he plays his D&D character like this, but it's like this guy is not much of a hero. He's just going to like slaughter everybody and take the gold, and he doesn't care. It's like, all right, can we still have a game?
Yeah.
Yes, we can. And he wasn't doing it to like troll. It was just like trying to just he's having fun and seeing if we can expand, the concept because this was said to me as well, like when people are playing on HeroQuest fans, like, well, what if someone shows up and just wants to like just buy tons of monsters and then leave? Well, then hopefully someone else is going to come in and buy tons of potions to balance it out.
And then leave.
Yeah. But I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. Maybe it's just not your night. Maybe tonight it's just going to be a death struggle, and then the other one it's going to be a cakewalk. As long as we're having fun, I'm not too particular.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when they say abusive player, Rantcast, the rise of rants. Okay. So we're live once again with our guests, and I'm not going to reintroduce everybody once again, but we are talking about Rise of the Dread Moon. And we were talking about the potion deck. I did want to say one thing about it is that I wouldn't be surprised if there were brand new potions. It's not just the old ones recycled with new prices and anyone can use it. But what they might be, who knows? Maybe there's something that has to do with that ethereal. I don't know. Let's see. When should I play this expansion? Where does it fall in the HeroQuest timeline? So this is the influence of those fans I was given such a hard time about. What order should I play them in? We see a lot of questions from players about when they should play an expansion pack. And then my side note is you play it when you want to play it. But he says, narratively, Rise of the Dread Moon occurs directly after the events of Mage of the Mirror. However, you will find this expansion challenges new players and seasoned heroes alike. So it's going to be challenging. Practiced adventurers can follow the thrilling narrative journey as new playable heroes or their classic party. So I didn't notice that either. New playable heroes, so not just the knight. So maybe there is a rogue or some other character.
I just think they mean I think they mean like you could be using a hero that is starting from scratch.
Oh, okay. Not new
type. As in new to the game. New like.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, like, I'm just reading too much into it.
You're playing as the elf, but it's a brand new elf with no equipment, no gold, and blah blah blah.
Oh, I was going the same way that Kurgan was on that. It's like what?
Yeah. So I think it was the word. I think it's the word classic that threw me off because I'm thinking, well, the 4 classic heroes and then these new heroes, new playable heroes. Well, I guess it is a little vague. Okay, sorry. Say what you're going to say.
Maybe they should have said, start off as new heroes instead of your original party or something like that.
Yeah. If we pick apart every
part of me almost thinks it's that they would almost be obligated to say that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's like, why do they need to even say it? Like they're not taking we are such hardcore fans. We know all the stuff, but people who are just reading about HeroQuest for the first time, like, why? This is an interesting game. I wonder if I should buy this. Like, or they just started playing and they kind of know what it is, and it's like, yeah, we want to give you directions. I understand the goal of them wanting to just keep it as simple as possible, but explain everything so that you don't have to think about it at all. You open the box and the adventure just begins. Like there's none of this worry about planning or arguing. Wait, how does this work? Oh, it's whatever I want. Well, I don't want to spend the whole evening trying to think of like how it should work. I just want it to work. Yep. It's like you're playing chess. Like I move my knight. Well, how does the knight move? Well, I don't know. Let's think about it. What would be a good way for the knight to move? It's like, no, he
He
moves
needs to
like
move
this. Go.
He moves 2 squares straight and then another square in a different direction.
Yeah, and then you hit the chess clock, and now it's your turn, and go, and we got to get this game going because we're, yeah, it's like, no, let's
You're
think
talking
about it
about
for
the
a while.
Guardian Knight, right? That's how he moves?
Ah, yes, the guardian pawn and the guardian bishop, and so on.
They move one space and then they move diagonally one space.
HeroQuest chess,
That's
it's coming.
another way of looking at it, yeah.
Yeah. They fall into a pit trap. It's like, what? Pit traps in chess? What are you talking about? Okay. So, anyway, how do you plan to play Rise of the Dread Moon? Cast the Far Voice spell and let us know. I just want to say the Far Voice spell was never part of the lore until they got it, so they're trying to put their own spin on it. Just like all these, can't wear metal armor stuff that we never had to worry about.
Explain how Mentor's always talking to you, but he never seems to be there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and it's like he can interfere, but he can't. So, what?
Actually, I almost want to say I'd have to go back and try to figure out which one it was.
Yeah, Dark Company.
I feel like
he appears in spectral form and talks.
Well, no, I was going to say, I feel like one of the quest notes for the European version of one of the, some quest has him casting a far voice spell to talk to you. I feel like they may not have actually completely made that up.
Find it and put it on the Discord, and we'll give you an award.
Was that? Did they use that in the Marvel Winter Special?
No, it's either Keller's Keep. It's probably Keller's Keep.
Find it. You might be right, because there's a lot of stuff in the European packs that I just kind of gloss over. Like when I'm reading, I just skip over it. I don't even pay attention. Like, oh, wait a minute, that's different. But other people
download, use the find feature, and just look up and have it key into far or voice or something like that.
The problem is a lot of the scans are just images, and Phoenix's versions have been edited, so they're not one-to-one the same. So, but yeah, maybe you can if you got more sophisticated software or better scans.
No, just on my phone, just going on the thing and then going to the Google text, and then it analyzes the screen for text.
Oh,
okay. And then you use the find feature and find the word.
Okay. All right. Well, you guys find it and come back to us on it. So, as far as the Rise of the Dread Moon, I'm just going to go over real quick my predictions from back then. So, I was just going to go out on a limb and say I think they will imitate the style of Mage of the Mirror and Frozen Horror. Could be totally wrong, but I think they're going to give solo quests to the knight. He's going to have some special stuff. It might not just be potions. He might have special gear. He might have other skills he can choose besides just those three. Maybe he can swap out. Maybe he's got a deck to choose from. I have no evidence of that.
It could be just a solo quest for any hero, kind of like they did Into the Northlands.
Yeah. That's the thing, though. These predictions are kind of useless because they really can do whatever they want. There's nothing that says they have to do anything, really. And just because we think it would be cool if they did something, obviously doesn't mean that they will. And we'll probably just...
I would almost say that there are things we think that would be really cool that they're almost certainly not going to do, maybe even for that exact reason.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with just letting the players decide. I mean, it could end on a cliffhanger and say, here, you finished the adventure. We never found out what happened to Skullmar, He got hit by a truck. So you make a quest. We never found out how Crypt of Perpetual Darkness was resolved. It's like, oh, you've got these nightmares of what happened. And yeah, is that like a clue of something to, you just got PTSD. Like, oh, that sucks. And it's like, no, that you make the next quest that explains where those premonitions were coming from, or whatever. That's fine. Some people don't like to make their own quests, though. I've read posts online. People are like, nah, I just buy the quest and play it. Like, they don't want to take the time to make it. Whereas when we were kids, like, we had the 2 expansions, and it was just like, we're not buying any more HeroQuest stuff. So any other, like, we have to make up the rest. So we just made up lots of stuff. And it was great. But whatever. Okay, so other things. So I speculated that there's probably going to be about 30 minis. There'll probably be an entrance door and an exit door. Again, just guessing based on past precedent. Would half of those like elven characters be like good or bad? So it might be like the mercenaries in Frozen Horror, where they could be monsters, they could be mercenaries. I was also thinking, what if I know a lot of people were talking about werewolves or vampires or ghosts. What if there's something where instead of the heroes turning into werewolves, they turn into ghosts? Like your spirit gets pulled out of your body, and so I don't know, maybe you can pass through walls or something, and you drop your body somewhere, so there's a little tile of your body laying there, and
You
something
Yeah, I
become
mean,
happens.
ethereal.
Yeah, you become ethereal. So, and I that's just out of, I mean, I could be completely wrong, and maybe N Carmine was making fun of me when he said, you know, how could you guys be more wrong than you were last time? But I'm basing some of that in just my flight of fancy, looking at in this picture here, this face, which a lot of people have speculated on. This face next to Sinestra. I was thinking, is that like Sir Ragnar's soul that she's controlling, or is she launching? Is she generating like these specters out of her? But it looks different. It doesn't look. It looks like a sad face.
Yeah.
But then you've got these like elf faces over here. Well, this one looks kind of malevolent. This one looks kind of scared, like a little anime girl going, "No." This one's like, "Ha ha
oh, I
ha!
didn't
I
even
am
notice this
evil."
before.
Yeah. So
Uh,
this could be just artwork, like I just made some cool artwork, or it could be this is a hint of like how the game is played. Like maybe these are some of your mercenaries that got captured and turned into ghosts, and now she's going to turn them into specters. I don't know. But what if that's what happened, you know? And if they don't do this, I'm kind of tempted to make a quest where it does happen because they have you turn into werewolves, they have you turn into orcs, you know, they have you turn to stone. Maybe they could turn you into ghosts too. It was kind of like that idea somebody had where it's like, oh man, all my heroes got killed. Well, so I made a quest where they have to fight their way through the afterlife. Like, okay, why not? Just have fun. It's just a way to keep on going. I don't know. So my predictions are kind of all over the place, but I was thinking like let's say 30 miniatures would be reasonable. I mean, we don't know if they're going to throw in dice or furniture or other swag, but based on like the size of the box, like if the box is the same size, it's probably pretty reasonable that that's what it is. I mean, there'll be tiles, there'll be cards. We don't know how many potion cards there's going to be, but we could guess 30 cards again. I don't know. You guys have predictions for Rise of the Dread Moon that are going to be less wrong than mine, maybe? Maybe.
I'm skeptical that there's going to be large numbers of any particular figure.
Oh, so you think variety is the
I
spice?
mean, when I look at other quest packs that introduced, I mean, I don't know, maybe they go in a completely different direction, but when you look at
There's going to be a giant
Frozen Horror and,
Sinestra head that takes up 8 squares, and she's made out of like solid plastic. I don't know.
when you look at Frozen Horror and Mage in the Mirror, right? There's like 3 or 4 at most of any particular thing.
Yeah. Well, we got 3 ice gremlins in
Right.
Frozen Horror.
I guess there were 6 mercenaries in the original, but
Yeah, because they had the bolt-on weapons. I think it'd be
yeah.
interesting if they brought the bolt-on weapons back, but here I don't see that. I see it as like you've got these big
In
hulking
Frozen
guys.
Horror, you did have the 3 of each on the remake, as well as the 3 ice gremlins, but you had 3 of each mercenary.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
increased the number of mercs, I think,
because they were
because
using new
they weren't
sculpts and not
swappable.
right. Exactly. Yeah, because the original, it's like you had more weapons that you would bolt on than you had generic bodies to bolt them onto.
Right.
So it was like, oh, if you put in a certain number of one mercenary, well, you're forfeiting the other ones because you've run out of figures. Whereas they gave you enough to have, yeah, all of everything. And they were probably thinking too, well, if we use some of them as monsters, and what if you already have those mercenaries out? Now we're not going to have those monsters until they die. That way you don't have to worry about it. Rather than retooling the quest and trying to like rebalance it. But I see it as you got these big hulking, like Chaos Warrior looking elves, and that seems like a totally different body type than like these skinny guys with the spears.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether the generic stuff on the box is in the box.
Yeah, it might just be just a
Might
kind
just
of a
be
placeholder.
fluff to kind
Fluff.
of
Yeah, exactly.
liven things up.
There's one guy with like a longbow over here. See this guy in the corner? He's got a bow.
Yeah,
Is he in there? And I mean,
I don't know.
are they going to say like, well, if you happen to own the elf pack, you can throw those guys in too, but you might not. The other thing is they could always have just cardboard tiles, just like the werewolves. I mean, there's no werewolf figure. I mean, you could have used a
Right.
giant wolf, but there's 4 heroes. What if all 4 of them turn into wolves? Well, you just use the tile.
What if there are wolves already on the board?
Yeah, exactly. So you can use anything to represent anything, but the average player is going to be like, where's the wolf figure? Oh, I got to use the wolf tile because I don't have the figure. Okay, whatever. They're not going to run out and buy a second one just so they can have the exact number of monsters. On the other hand, when we were kids, it was like, oh, we've got Keller's Keep. That means I can keep throwing extra orcs on the board because I've got enough, or I can keep throwing skeletons because I've got Return of the Witch Lord. You know, that's not fair. You went out and you bought a second deck of cards, so now there's even more heroic brews in the treasure deck. I printed more, so yeah, all bets are off.
I don't know.
My treasure deck is 3 decks, so I printed
Dang.
out the European deck, then I got the North American, and then I got the remake, and
It's
they're
really
all
gonna
sleeved in the same pile.
it's really gonna suck when they get their like 18th wandering monster in a row. It's like dang. Well, and some people
Well,
change the
I
rules.
got
They say
4
like,
Tupperware containers, so like the
Yeah.
characters just keep going. So
Oh,
when
yeah.
they pull a treasure card, they hold the treasure card till they use it, and then it goes in the quest afterwards.
instead of writing it down and just putting the card back for the next adventure. Interesting. Like, hurry up and use up that potion of healing so we can throw it, shuffle it back into the deck. Give someone else a chance. Okay.
I just really hope that if they
Yeah.
do Spectrum miniatures, that they're like a translucent plastic.
Everybody has been saying that they got to be transparent because otherwise you got to paint them. It's like, on the other
You
hand,
don't.
is
I mean, you really don't. But
yeah, to make them look ghostly because I agree that it would be cool to have a see-through plastic miniature, but you could always just say, well, this is their solid form. You know, how see-through do these figures look?
Not really, but it'd be kind of a cool.
Yeah, they might just
cool
look
little
like
perk.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm like what you're saying with the Chaos or Dread Warriors.
Mhm.
They'll always be Chaos Warriors.
still
Yeah.
real to me, damn it.
Kind of wondering if there'll be sort of like an elvish theme to them.
Well, yeah, that's what we're seeing. So the question is, are these slaves to darkness who are not human but elvish, or these are just guys with big armor on? Because it looks like their elf ears are sticking out of the helmet, which is silly.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, hey, it's an elf. You know, that's how they. Well, I always made fun of the fact that the mercenaries didn't have helmets. It's like, come on, these guys are all gonna get headshotted. But it's easier to tell like what the character is, I guess, unless you give them a really distinctive looking helmet. So, yeah, I don't know if these are Chaos Warriors or if these are just big guys in armor. Could be anything.
My only problem was the swordsman, I think, because he had 5 defense dice, but he needed more armor somewhere, and even if he's wearing plate, he still needed a helmet.
Yeah. Well, I guess my reasoning when I first saw him was, oh, he just uses his big old sword to like block everything, and that's why he's got so much defense. But yeah, you could make up anything you wanted, any reason why.
Yeah. Well, after I painted it to look like cloth, I'm thinking about going back and repainting it to look like chainmail. So
See,
he's probably gonna. He's got a chainmail hood that he's
it's
just
brigandine. It's
got.
brigandine. Just put some metal studs on the outside and say it's brigandine. But yeah, it doesn't look as cool because it's just like, oh, that just looks like cloth. It's like, yeah, you think this is cloth? Clang, clang, clang. Yeah. which I know people say, oh, it's studded leather armor. It's like, no, Brigandine has the metal on the inside and the cloth on the outside. Or they could just throw a, like, look at the Guardian Knight. He's got some cloth over his armor because he's got this weird, like, samurai scale armor and fur. And I really think the Guardian Knight looks a lot like the old Guardian Knight, except the helmet on top. So I'm happy about that. I think he looks interesting, but I mean, it's the cool helmet is what you want. You know, even though you want to have like a cool face to paint, I guess having a cool helmet is cool too. I'm surprised the other heroes don't have like new outfits, but I guess they didn't have time to do a costume change right after that last adventure.
They're always wearing the same thing.
Yep. Smelly. Yeah, you gotta between quests you gotta pay the launderer to wash all the blood stains out of your uniform. Yep. Yeah, but it's interesting because when I first saw this artwork, I was thinking that these were orcs, like because I couldn't tell. It was all kind of greenish and they had the pointed ears. But now it's they're obviously elves. So I was wondering if Sir Ragnar's a bad guy. We don't know if he's really a bad guy or if he's being controlled by magic. If that even matters. So is there some redemption arc? Is it going to be like the Spirit Queen where it's like, yeah, you had to kill him, but you put him out of his misery, Or what if it's something to do? I'm thinking of the whole ghost turning into ghosts idea. What if you turn into a ghost and your spirit is passing through walls and your body is now an automaton controlled by the bad guys? Kind of like the werewolf thing. So what if what we're seeing on the screen is not just, well, half of the elves have gone rogue, but maybe some of the heroes too have turned bad, and are attacking the wrong people. Because why is the rogue coming after the elf here? Of course, maybe it's a different rogue, Maybe some of this cadre of the Raven's Veil or whatever, maybe those people are doing their own thing. But I was kind of speculating, like thinking, like, what if it's not just a command spell? Maybe occasionally the heroes go after each other. Now, I think some people would react to that and say that's a bad idea because if the heroes are constantly killing each other and suffering the consequences, that's maybe gonna, it's like competitive HeroQuest. You're not gonna be friends for long, or people are not gonna want to play. It's like, hey, I said no friendly fire. What do you guys think of that? Do you think the idea of the heroes like turning on each other in the middle of the game is gonna like derail it? Is that an unworkable plot point? I mean, we don't know if it's really happening. It's just my imagination here.
Yeah, I'm skeptical that there's going to be
anything like that.
I don't know. I mean, there might, there could be
Spirit
more
possession.
kind of Zargon takes control of heroes and uses them against the party type things, like we've seen, some dread spells and stuff, or chaos spells.
Yeah.
Past. They could do more of that.
Well, and I'm thinking about it like command. I think when I was a kid and I first saw that, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to kill my friend now, in the game. But
right,
with the way the Mage of the Mirror handles it, is you turn into you roll to see if you turn into a werewolf, because after you're infected, unless you have those two potions, Wolfsbane or Restoration, so you roll, you might not turn into a werewolf, but if you do, it's like you forfeited your turn to Zargon. He does your turn, but then on the next turn you're back to normal and you roll again until you're cured. Yep. So there's never really an opportunity for another hero to kill you, because once they do decide to attack you, you're back in human or elf form again, dwarf form, whatever. And they can't be attacked by another hero because they don't have friendly fire in HeroQuest. So that doesn't come up. And the same thing with, if I remember correctly, with against the Ogre Horde with Dominate, because Zargon or Morcar just gets to control your piece for one turn. Next turn, he's back to normal. I think. Because he would cast the spell.
Usually, yeah.
So it's the evil wizard's turn. He casts the spell on you. You aren't able to resist it. He controls you. Hero's
And you go back
turn,
to normal.
you're back to
Yeah.
normal. Yeah. So there's never going to be well, of course, in the European version, they could be like, I don't know, your mind points are kind of low. You're getting some bad rolls. I don't think we can afford to have you dominate again. Sorry. They kill you. You're like, what? That could happen. But under the North American rules, yeah, there's no friendly fire. So it'd actually be less punishing to the hero's egos than the command spell. But it's a long shot. I could be totally wrong. Maybe this whole spirit possession thing is just nonsense. The people that the specters you encounter already were converted long ago, and they're not. It's not happening in real time in the adventure, or it's just part of the background story. Oh, by the way, Sinestra, captured all these souls, and good thing that you rescued them at the end. Now they can truly rest in peace. Except for that one guy that got away, and you're going to have to write the quest. And then they show the blank quest at the end. So, Prophecy of Telor. I'm excited for this coming out, and all they've shown us so far is the holographic, shiny box. But the fact that it's in its own box, and it looks to be the size of the slightly smaller expansion boxes that Keller's Keep Return of the Witch Lord, leads to speculation of what's going to be in the box. Now we can safely bet that there's going to be cards in there, because there were cards in the Mythic version that are not found in the game system.
Only like 1 or 2, isn't it? Or a small number, though, isn't it?
Yeah, there's like 10.
It's like a couple artifacts or something.
Yeah, 10 cards. But as far as what else could be in there, several people have speculated and said, well, this would be a perfect opportunity if they're trying to, again, win back those fans who were still upset about missing out on the Mythic box, to say, oh yeah, here's the female zombies, and even though that's not required to play the quest, I mean, it only used regular components, except for those extra potions and.
I mean, that was why I was originally very skeptical that they would see a retail release, because it'd be like, what's going to be new? What's going to be the hook?
Right.
It's like,
I am, and I've said it before, and I'm not going to spend another hour just like complaining about that, but as a person who bought the Mythic tier and is glad he bought it, like, I'm not upset that the world gets it. In fact, all along I've wanted other people to be able to get it. So the fact that we're getting a redesigned, better looking, because who wants to see Sir Ragnar in his pajamas holding a torch? I mean, yeah, he's a prisoner, but it's like, okay, so for one quest, you've got this cool looking figure.
yep.
Him,
when else are you going to use it?
Sword. He's a knight. It's like, I want to see a knight. Like,
You could use it for the barbarian.
Yeah.
Like the elder in.
Yep. Yeah, Gulthar. It's like, he's an old guy.
Yeah.
Can barely lift a finger. Well, in the original draft, though, he was a mighty warrior. He was like as strong as the barbarian. It's like, yes, this is great. Now the odds are even. Of course, you find him at the very end. I mean, in theory, you might have killed all the monsters already, and maybe it's not that big a deal. But yeah, so they decided to make him old and frail. Yeah. So the fact that Sir Ragnar's back, that the fact that the Guardian Knight is back, so it's like all the people that spent a lot on that exclusive. Sorry. But, and Carmine's been saying over and over, and I agree with him, it's like the scalpers are not going to be happy about this. And I'm sorry.
It's good. Scalpers are scum that need to
stop being that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes. If you're, selling stuff to super nerds so that you can pay for your grandma's cancer surgery, bless you. But I think the majority of those people are just trying to make a buck off of people that they know are infected with fear of missing out, and ignorant about when stuff will be available. So I'm glad that this stuff is coming out, and I don't think it hurts collectors, because you can always say, well, hey, this was clearly the original version, and then the newer version, whatever. It's not as rare. But yeah, just for the sake of those fans, any excuse, like, there doesn't need to be a reason. So if they want to cram more of that stuff into Prophecy of Telor, I could see that happening, and I'd be happy about it. And if it was something brand new, whatever. But and at the same time, let's say it is just a box with the quest book and some cardboard, would you be happy about that? Maybe they could just like have it be a slightly lower price. You know,
If it's a quest book and some cardboard, I mean, I wouldn't buy it. I already have it.
Yeah.
Again, this is where I'm really skeptical that it's going to be exactly the same, you know, in a sense, because I suspect they're going to want to give people who bought the Mythic tier. I mean, it just kind of makes sense from a marketing perspective, right?
This is going to be the
Give us a reason to buy the box.
version 2. Well, I would buy it just to support, you know, just to say thank you. But that's me. The fan who already owns it is just going to say, it's nothing for me here. Why do I need 2 copies of a quest book? Yeah, you're right. If you have 2 copies of a miniature, you can, there's more miniatures. 2 copies of tiles, you can use those. More cards, you can use those. But yeah, 2 quest books, give it away to a friend. What does it matter? I mean, yeah, there were some typos, but Zargon fixes those typos as he's playing anyway. So it's just a slight convenience.
Right. It's like, yeah, there were.
Couple
I actually don't know. I don't know whether. Yeah, I don't know whether Telor had issues. I know a couple of the other. Yeah,
it did. They were small. They were few and far between. But I mean, there was a couple of like letters that weren't there, doors that weren't labeled, or they forgot to color in the gray. But yeah, the other 2 quest books had a lot more errors.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll buy it.
I'd
Even
buy
though
that
I
for
have
$1.
it with the mythic set, but
See, you're still going to buy it. But you think they're going to do something to sweeten the deal. The question is, what's it going to be? Literally anything.
Will they give us the miniature of the character on the cover? Is that Melar?
Yeah, or Milar, as I think Stephen Baker says it. English accent.
Yeah, I haven't really read.
There's a couple of special characters, like
other extras are in it.
Well, see, it always goes back to like whenever there's a quest where it's like, oh, this goblin is special. Someone's like, okay, so there's got to be a miniature of that goblin. Or there's an orc holding a slightly different weapon. Okay, there's got to be a miniature of that one. So there was like a fire demon.
That's
so they can
almost. That's like.
What happened to imagination?
Never been the case.
You always use your imagination.
Even the classic quest packs that included a lot of new stuff that hadn't been in the game before also have like
repurposed. Yeah, because it's about your imagination.
You've got multiple dread sorcerer, just generic, like this dude is just a dread, a chaos sorcerer, right? In both the Frozen Horror and Mage of the Mirror. They didn't say, oh, Vylor needs a unique miniature, and the Alchemist needs a unique miniature.
So this is just a fan thing. Fans like to have special miniature. They like to 3D
yes,
print.
Fans love it.
This is
absolutely.
This is Grak. This is Ograk.
Yep.
This is,
I did that myself, but
Harlan.
I do that. I do that knowing that that's not. Right. That's me deciding I want to go the extra mile, not something that
you want to make it special. It's like you're sitting down with your friends, and it's like this one character that's going to appear one time.
Yep,
has the special.
And they're going to have the unique, and they're going to have a unique thing that.
Right. It's like I spent all this time printing out this Ograk figure, and now he's going to be, Baldar, the traveling minstrel. It's like, okay, whatever. You're going to invent, because they could give you 20 new miniatures. Now each of those 20 is going to have like 5 new applications. It never ends. So we have no way of knowing. It would be a departure from precedent, but they're kind of just making new precedents all the time. So we just don't know. So Prophecy of Telor is kind of a big mystery. The last topic here, I think we've run out of time. So I'm just gonna open up the floor and say, what do you guys think of the updates to the companion app? Or do you even care? Do you use it at all? What do you think?
So I don't use it, but because I tried once and it
was really
on
buggy.
My particular piece of hardware, it just wouldn't work. Like the text didn't show up, so it was completely unusable. I haven't tried again since. I might try going back and seeing whether any more recent versions are play a little nicer, whether they, for whatever pad abilities
I've got some
improved.
strong feelings about it. So you other guys, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of like it. I'm not sure about the +1 body point, +1 mind point, and what +1 attack. One attack die? Is that
Yep.
what that is?
Yeah, there's
Um,
toggles. They added toggles for each
Yeah.
of those monster attributes. You can do them individually, any combination you want, or none at all, and you can add,
Yeah. And
which
then just play
can
around with
drastically change the difficulty. Yeah.
yeah. I was playing around a little bit with the toggle for attack weakest character or weakest hero.
Yeah,
Um,
it's strictly by
If-
overall body points. Yeah, who they
yeah.
target. hmm
So I just went with the classic lineup. They would go after the wizard first because he's got the lowest body points.
Plus
But
you got mercenaries. Yeah.
right. But
Yeah.
then I tried. I just boosted him by 1 body point. He was no longer the target because he had a boost and was above his starting. So the game reads that as being healthier, quote unquote,
Yep.
than somebody with starting body points.
Exactly.
Even taking off some body points from like the barbarian, they would still go after the wizard because the wizard has the lowest body points.
Yep.
Or no, they wouldn't go after the wizard
know.
because
I know.
because now it's reading barbarian as having less body points because it's no longer at starting value.
I did the same thing you did, so I know what you're trying to say. So I've tested it as well. So it doesn't matter whether they're wounded or not. It's just an overall thing. So normally the mercenaries have 2, so they're going to get targeted before the wizard who has 4.
Yeah, I didn't try it with the mercenaries.
Because it's all on the honor system when you're playing. You decide if you want to, and I usually, when I've used the companion app, I've forgotten to click on the profile of each hero and like lower or raise the body points. I'm still writing it on paper. So they're really like, they're asking all the people to be sitting at the table, all playing as heroes, and one person has the phone in their hand and they're actually typing it out, but everybody else is using paper. And it's just like, oh yeah, did you remember to subtract the body point? Oh, I forgot to do that. Oh, okay, yeah. So he's got that. It kind of makes it harder because one person is keeping track of everything. So it's almost like they're Zargon again, even though they're really not. They're on the hero side. I guess they don't have to keep track of the monster attacks and the monster movements, but they still got to roll the monster defenses. Well, anyway, the body point thing for monsters was kind of unnecessary, I thought, because it's like you can just keep adding damage to monsters and just don't remove them from the board until you're satisfied that they're really dead. So you could give them 15 body points worth of damage and then remove them. Or you could remove them after the first hit and just say, yeah. But it is a simplified way to just kind of like give yourself an extra challenge if you want to and say, oh yeah, our guys are really heavily equipped. We got tons of potions. Let's just say everybody's got 1 more. So goblins are now like orcs. Orcs are like Fimmers. Fimmers are like Chaos Warriors. Chaos Warriors are like gargoyles. Gargoyles are like stronger. Well, I guess it's not 100% like that, but I did notice that when you add mind points, it doesn't really change anything for undead. But I guess if you're doing it on the honor system, in theory, you could say, well, now I've got to roll. Like when you cast a spell, like normally a sleep spell would never work on an undead monster. I guess the app does prevent you from doing that, so never mind about that. But I was thinking like, okay, extra mind point means another chance to defeat a sleep spell, let's say. But yes, with the targeting weak, I mean, you can give your hero 20 body points, which will never happen in the game, but in the profile, you can do that. And so the monsters will not target him if there's somebody with like 19 body points or 18 body points, like down the line. So it doesn't matter if they've been wounded or not, it's just overall body points. So they'll bypass everybody and they'll chase down the guy. I did notice that, like, if a monster is out of range, he doesn't try to get in range, which is kind of weird. So if you're like five squares away from a mummy, he won't try to like get close so that on his next turn he can move in and attack you. He'll just hang out until you like get close enough, then he'll move forward. So it's kind of weird. like that. So the AI is better than it was, but it's still not as good as if you were playing like a Flesh and Blood Zargon who can coordinate. Because there's nothing in the rules that says, oh, these monsters are
Right.
dumb idiots that don't know anything. It's like, no, they have a god's eye view of the world. Zargon is telling them exactly what to do. They have no self-preservation. They have no, camaraderie. They just do whatever they're told.
Right.
Whereas
And
in the
then
app, they just would just dumbly like run at you.
yeah, I mean, what more do you want from a free app anyway?
Yeah. Well, if you just want to win the, sorry, what were you saying?
I'm just saying, I'm just grateful that they created this to begin with.
Yeah, it's free. It's not full of ads. There's no microtransactions. I mean, that's pretty rare nowadays. I mean, yes, they gather your data. It's like, oh shoot. I mean, I play it on an emulator. I use a VPN, so it's but I mean, I know that's not how it was intended. The way I've used the app incorrectly. So I've used it not as a companion. I've actually used it in place of the game. So there've been a few times where I didn't have time to set up the board because I use my work table and my game table are the same, so I got to clear everything off. So I just threw the app on the screen. I'm running it through an emulator, so that's not officially supported. And I just like use the honor system and we're just moving our pieces around on the screen. And so we're using the icons as the actual pieces. Like if you can look at HeroQuest fans, we've done that. That's not how it was intended to be used, but it's kind of like an interesting experiment. Like, could we have an adventure that way? Yeah.
Neat little perk, I guess.
Yeah. Now, the dice rolling, okay, so you're going to have to add some type of virtual dice. And you're still going to like, now, how many body points do I have? Certain things. Well, again, if we remember to click on stuff. I guess the inventory you have to keep track of yourself because there's nothing in the app that keeps track of, what you found for treasure. And I'd still have to have the treasure deck. So it's not a 100% digital solution, but I think they did that on purpose because they don't want to, because otherwise they would be monetizing it. Like you'd either buy the app or you buy the board game.
Yeah.
Because in theory, there'd be some people that would just be like, yeah, I don't want to spend $100 or $90 on HeroQuest. I'll just spend $10 on the app. And I'll play every quest once and then that's good enough. Because there's no remix feature. There's no create your own quest feature. But I kind of like the fact that, yeah, they spent all this time to program all these gimmicks in, which must have taken a heck of a long time, and make it work as well as it does for
Right.
people who, yeah, hate being the GM. Even though it's not that big a deal being Zargon, I mean, it's not like GMing a lot of other games. It's not that bad. But there's still people that don't want to do that. They want the experience of being the hero. They just want to play on the same team because some people feel there's that adversarial. It's like, oh, he's cheating. He's ruining it. It's like, no, we're beating the computer. And yeah, you could just win everything. You can kill all the monsters with a touch of a button. You can never allow Zargon to take his turn. You could just crush it easily. Never even count monster damage against yourself. But you'd only be cheating yourself. I mean, I guess if that's fun for you, it's like playing Doom and with God mode. It's like, I guess that's kind of fun. But yeah, for what it is, I think they did a fairly good job. And I was dismissive at the start because I would have said playing Zargon is one of the most fun ways for me to play HeroQuest. And it's almost like we're competing, like who gets to be the GM this time? Like, oh man, I want to do it. No, you were that last time. It's like, But it's another option. It's another way for people to play. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
And the fact that they don't do everything for you does leave openings for people who want the crossbow to work a different way and those house rules to be easier to implement. And they have all these toggles so they can make changes on the fly much easier than like printing out a new rule book or, forcing you to go on Twitter and look for the quote unquote official answer. So I don't know. Any other thoughts on that? You guys think it's okay to have this, or is it a total abomination? No, this is an abomination.
Yeah, I like it. I haven't tried out the advanced goblins and skeletons yet, but I like that how the goblins actually makes them sneaky now.
Yeah,
Run up,
they can
run up,
move, attack, move.
and keep on moving.
Kind of like the ice gremlins, moving, stealing your stuff, and then running away.
Yeah.
But yeah, because the tactic that the heroes use is you block the door, you put the 2 diagonal guys, and you funnel the monsters into that choke point, and you kill them all, right? Until they throw the
Right.
specters at you. What the monsters can do is, you got the monster in the doorway, he attacks, he moves out of the way, his buddy moves forward and attacks. And if you've got the advanced skeletons now who have the diagonals, they can be on the sides, they can do their own door blocking shenanigans. The goblins can move out of the way. The fact that you've got the attack weak means you can coordinate it somehow so that sometimes the monsters will flank around and attack the weaker guys that are in the back. So it's possible. So they get a little bit better. In my testing, I did notice a few times though that the skeleton would get as close as he could to the door and he would just stay there. Like once the monster's in a good spot, they never move. That's not something that a smart Zargon player would do. They would move the monster out of the way to get that extra opportunity for another attack.
For sure.
So it's still better, but yeah.
What's the isometric game? I can't remember. Lurch Brick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Isometric hero.
The monster AI on that is pretty good because they do that.
Yep.
I've never looked at his.
There's a monster in front of the door and another monster behind it. The first one will attack and then move out of the way so the second one can get in.
Nice. So if a fan in his spare time could do it, surely they can. However, since so much of it is on the honor system though, there's a lot of things that the computer doesn't know. Like it's kind of like those spells, like they don't know what spell to use in what situation. They just kind of start throwing them out. So maybe some of that AI tactics is hampered by the fact that they haven't defined everything. Like you'd almost have to tell them, hey, just so you know, Zargon, our strategy is going to be we're going to stay in this doorway and maximize our attacks against you. So I want you to use tactics to counter it. And if you don't tell it that, so you have to click a button saying flanking maneuver. So they do it. So then you're almost getting into the heroes are Zargon, which is kind of that like, oh, oops, I didn't use good tactics against myself. I guess I win again. Like, I mean, you win either way, but it's like you kind of want to set the challenge for yourself and see if you can beat it rather than just saying I'm in control of everything. And it's really the challenge is completely illusionary.
Well, and this is where I go back. You know, I made this comparison in the Discord. Right. It makes me think of I don't even know if I want to call it a board game exactly. It doesn't have a conventional board, so
tabletop game.
But yeah, Too Many Bones was designed with that in mind. Right. So it's a game. It's a up to 4 player party RPG game with no player playing the bad guys.
Yeah. Oh, I love that game.
Or HeroQuest, I think, is that way too, isn't it? Everybody's on the same team.
I know nothing about HeroQuest.
But I look at that and I wonder, I'm like, would we actually, in a weird way, just be better off if the rules for the monsters were just kind of codified and published, right? It was like, oh, this is the solitaire mode, kind of the Zargon-ness mode. Here is how each monster behaves. You know, because you talked about things like the monsters will run past people to get to other people. Well, Too Many Bones, they never do that. They always will attack a target. Like if they're already in range of a target, they'll attack them. They're not going to like do dumb things like bypassing a threat to get to another thing. But it's more like, if there's 2 equally viable targets,
you want to kill off.
It'll prioritize. You know, this thing will go for the tougher one. This thing will go for the weaker one. This thing can target multiple people on the same turn if they're in range. You know, that kind of thing.
Well,
and you wouldn't even like an app could be cool, but in theory you could do that, not need the app. You could just do it on the board. Like I think the app is handy for
That's a
because of
good
the
point.
nature of this game. You can reveal things, but I'm just like I feel like
Yeah, the surprise.
given the complaints that sometimes I've seen, and we were discussing earlier the inherent bias, right? Like most of the people who will take the time to bring up something like this are probably going to be disproportionately the people who had a problem with it. But
Sure.
Or just having a player as Sargon and moving it just same way that you would move the heroes on the app, so that it was a manual mode.
That could be interesting. You're Zargon, and the heroes are AI. That'd be kind of sweet. I like it.
Hey,
I
you're
like
kind
it.
of reading my mind there. I was gonna say something like that. It'd be nice to have a manual mode where we can move the monsters ourselves.
Now you can be Zargon, even if there's no heroes to kill. You've killed your friends so much they won't play you anymore. Well, yeah, and it's like, yeah, that's a super sweet idea. I can't believe I never thought of that. Great. I was going to say something like the predefined monster behavior. I've kind of done some of that in my games. Like it makes no sense, except from like a role playing standpoint, where I've had like a goblin like run away from the heroes. Like, why would he ever do that? Obviously, he would just throw himself uselessly and then be killed.
right,
It's like, no, I wanted him to run away so they could just have the fun of like, haha, look at that
yeah. I
pipsqueak,
mean,
scared
I
him.
just meant
Or the
that-
chaos warrior, like he's just fearless. Like you've slaughtered everyone, and he's just gonna
he doesn't
rush
care.
in. He's gonna rush in. He's gonna target the weakest guy and kill him because
Yep.
he's just a murderous jerk like that. Yeah.
I just meant more. It's like the enemies in Too Many Bones. They're all just pre-programmed, right?
Yeah. If you know what they're supposed to
you
do.
know as the player what they're going to do, and you're actually like success in the game depends on understanding and knowing how to position and prioritize your characters.
Yeah.
So that you can mitigate. I mean, the balance of that is a little different in that you're often fighting things that are like tougher than you as opposed to weaker. Like the monsters you fight are, I would say on balance, probably have more stats than you do.
Yeah, as opposed to HeroQuest, where it's kind of the opposite.
Where they
Most
have
of the
less.
monsters are weaker. Not
Right,
always,
so-
of course.
Yeah.
Frozen horror.
So kind of knowing what they're tactically, how they're going to behave, and arranging yourself. So it's like, okay, well, we need the characters to be placed in the places where they can handle the thing that they're fighting.
You almost need to be able to define monster behavior if you're going that way, because, I mean, someone who's been playing this game for 30 years, how are mummies supposed to fight? Maybe they fight one way, somebody else has a completely different idea. I'm thinking of the classic arcade game Golden Axe. Like, remember those big guys with the hammers? Like, they would just be standing there laughing, and they would let all their minions get slaughtered before they would finally attack you. Unless you attack them first, then they'd get involved. So the smart player would like save them for last. Although you'd have the player who's like beaten the game so many times they're bored and they're like, I want a challenge, so they attack them right away, so they've got a big mob on their hands. But I mean, you could do something like that with your characters. Say like, yeah, this guy will hang back and let his minions do the dirty work, or he'll try to run away, or I don't know. If monsters could activate rooms, that would be a tactic. But here at this point, I feel like they have the freedom, and I think we would give them that freedom to redefine the rules, just like they've been doing with some of these packs.
Yeah.
Like to just say, well, what if in this pack monsters can open doors, or what if in this pack, treasure searching works a different way? What's wrong with that? I mean, they designed the quests with that in mind. If you don't like it, you can go back to the old rules, but there's nothing. I mean, it's like the rogue having the unblockable attacks. Like that rule is not retroactively added to all the other stuff, but you could do it that way if you wanted. You could have the elf spells available in the game system if you wanted.
That's what I do.
Yeah. So it's still giving the
Available,
heroes,
not available, mandatory.
you're still giving the players the opportunity to either not know what they're missing or retroactively combine the stuff. But they could redefine these rules. So because they have that freedom, it makes it really, really hard to make accurate predictions. of this stuff, because for all we know, we're overthinking it, and Dread Moon is going to be pretty straightforward and predictable, or it could be completely something that we haven't thought of.
I mean, I think the Spectre, to me, is a sign that they are doing some thinking that's pretty creative, right? You know,
Yeah.
going through walls, like
Yeah, I never thought of that.
having an ability that synergizes, right? Where it's like, oh, they
Lots of us have thought of
team
the
up.
idea of defeating the door blocking technique, but not in that way. At least I've never seen it.
Right.
You know, double wide doors, diagonal attacks, rooms that activate in other places, wider hallways. You know, all these other, you know, ideas. They can shove you back, shove you out of the way. I don't know, rail guns that like shoot through you, kill the guy on the other side. Yeah. Oh yeah. One quick other thing. So early on in the discussion about the Spectre, when people were saying, "Oh, these were OP," Verg, our friend Verg, he created a little graphic. Maybe some of you saw it. This little animation. I'm gonna try to. So he was saying, well, what if this scenario happens? You see that little animation? So you've got the barbarian, and he's moving along the corridor, chasing the Spectre, and the Spectre just walks through a wall. Can they hang out inside solid rock safely? Can they go into rooms that have never been explored? Not activating them, of course.
I think we're going to have to wait and see whether that's spelled out in the...
Yeah. There's a lot we don't know.
Yeah.
Plus, I was thinking, even this scenario where you could just annoy the hell out of the players by doing this, who's to say the goal of the quest is to kill the Spectres? I mean, oh, okay, so Zargon hid all his monsters. Well, so what? The heroes accomplished their quest and didn't have to worry about it. And as long as that monster is alive there, it can't be alive somewhere else. Or if he's got a crossbow, he can just shoot the dang thing. I mean, assuming you can... Ethereal doesn't mean you're immune to projectiles, which I don't think you are. I don't see why you would be. I assume you're solid, except when you're passing through something. But what do I know? The other thought was, if they can just move anywhere, couldn't all the Spectres just move to one area, like across the entire board, and just like kill somebody and then just like move all the way across the board and attack? I mean, that would be an interesting threat. But then I was thinking, well, but just because like monsters don't activate other monsters, so it's
Not typically.
unless you like you discovered a Spectre and then ran away to the other end of the board, and then you found another Spectre on that side, and now the two are gonna link up and boost each other. It's like that's your own fault. That's not, you know, it's such a contrived scenario. I don't see it being like game breaking, but still. I'm sure they're thinking of this, and if they gave themselves enough time to play test it, they're going to see if those scenarios come up. If they screw up, well, we'll point it out, and they'll make a digital quest, you know, saying, well, if this happens, here's what Zargon should do. Like Into the Northlands, you know. I think they did Into the Northlands because they didn't have enough time they realized too late that they were going to have to make changes. Mage of the Mirror, they had more time, so they put the changes in the box. And with this one, they're making it from the ground up. So it's kind of like they've defined the parameters for themselves. So I think it's cool that, yes, they are taking risks with new, wild, wacky solutions based on player feedback, because a lot of people have complained about the door blocking technique, saying that it makes the game too easy. And yet they can make the game so hard that it kind of loops around back to players are still complaining. It's like,
we're gonna have to see how often do they put multiple Spectres together, you know.
I mean, they clearly established. Well, the other thing is, just because they showed up those cards in the blog doesn't mean that's final. But at the same time, they're probably showing us pretty close to the final draft,
I would imagine.
And
I don't think that the basic concept is likely to change.
because they're showing it to us because they want us to see what it is. They want to hear how we react to it. I don't think they're doing this just to shock us. Like, ooh, there's cool things happening. Ooh, aren't you excited? It's like, oh, hey, what do you think of this idea? And everyone's like, it sucks, it sucks. So they change it. They quietly, well, trust us, you're gonna like it. Once you know the context, you're gonna like it. Please like it. Like, I don't know. I haven't been on like Reddit and Facebook and other places to see like what people are saying. Like even Twitter, like I rely on other people to report back. Have you guys seen a lot of like negativity about this, or is everybody kind of raving about it, or just hard to say?
About the Spectre?
Or just Rise of the Dread Moon in general?
I don't know. I haven't. I'm not sure that I'm active anywhere else really, other than your
yeah.
Discord. So
Yeah, well,
I haven't
honored.
seen anything.
I like the fact that people who are active in those places report if stuff happens. And I mean, even like in Carmine will be like, hey, there's something happening in our Haviland Hill Discord. Come on over. So it's like, thank you. Because, yeah, social media, it's spread out. So you can't just rely on a Saturday morning toy commercial to give all your info anymore. Or the Sears catalog or whatever. Well, guys, we've gone over
I'm gonna say
time.
real quick.
Yeah. Go for it.
To me, they all seem like they're fans of the game, and they're not going to do anything overtly to screw it up. It, you know, they've got just as much passion as we do.
I think I agree with that. Everything I've seen has been in conformity with
At least
that.
from in Carmine, anyway.
Yeah. If there's somebody on the team who like hates HeroQuest and just can't wait to remake it in their own image, that person isn't saying anything. And hopefully doesn't have much creative control. Yeah.
Hopefully there's no Kathleen Kennedy or Ryan Johnson.
Ooh, zing. That'll be the next rant cast. Yeah. It's like, oh, these fans, they just don't know quality when they see it. I'll force them to embrace my new vision. Like, no. On the other hand, like if HeroQuest is around for another 20 years and I mean, I don't know, they just said 2026, but if they keep cranking out stuff, I mean, to keep it fresh, they might have to, quote unquote, release new packs where they do shake things up completely. But yeah, the question is, how well would that be received? Would people just go, nah, the way I've been playing it is fine. I don't need that. Or they go, oh, new miniatures, and they throw the rule book in the trash and just play the way they want to. I don't know. But yeah, I think you're right. I think they do have a passion. They are trying to please the fans. They're trying to give the fans what they want. And they're trying to make new fans at the same time, realizing that the appeal of HeroQuest is something good for them, even though they've already got D&D and all this other stuff.
Right.
It's a simple game. It's easy to get into. It can be a stepping stone to other things, but it can also be a thing in and of itself. It's nostalgic, but it's also a new thing too.
Yeah. It's one of those games where I wish I could be a brand new fan all over again, discovering it for the first time.
Yeah, you just have to do it vicariously through other people now, right? I kind of get a little bit of that feeling though when I'm at someone else's table, which doesn't happen very often, where there's Argon and I'm just a hero, and it's like, okay, what do you got for me? Like, okay, well, my crossbow works a little differently than yours, but and it just goes from there. It's like, sure,
Yeah.
I'll sit through it. Let's see what you got. I'm not going to be like, that's not how I would do it. It's like, we'll just do it because that's what people are doing when they come to my table. I mean, I'm sure my particular set of rules is not what everyone used, and I can learn from them. Some of the things they do make more sense than what I'm doing, but this is just what I'm doing. So I don't know. Would you think that would improve the stream in the future? Like if I'm not always Zargon, like if we get somebody fresh in there to kind of take the reins and maybe set some different rules and see how it goes.
Your channel, what you want to do.
See, that's correct answer. Yeah. Well, I don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to do at least one quest where we just play the European style rules or the Japanese rules. Now the Japanese rules are a little different because I feel like it really is designed for that campaign, that quest after. Because if you just play one quest, it's like, well, that was kind of weird. It's like, yeah, but you're building towards something. There's a much more
Right.
tightly focused story and development. You know, it's like, oh, you wasted all the gold and you got all these bad rolls, and so now you're way behind everybody else. It's like, it happened. It's like, why don't you have any gold? Well, I died and they had to revive me at the temple, so that's why. It's like,
Well, you'd see a lot more potion use going
yeah,
with the European rules, since
yeah.
they
It's
don't
like
carry.
use it or lose it, and there's no alchemist shop, so it's like, yeah, that's true. It's like once you get magic, you use it. You get potion, you use it. None of this hanging on. Well, I'll maybe use it later. Oh, another one? How am I going to use all these up? Yeah. All right, guys. Well, closing thoughts on the new HeroQuest releases.
Super stoked.
Nice.
Yeah.
You gonna pre-order as soon as you can?
Depending on which websites have it.
Yeah. If GameStop says they've got a pre-order, or Entertainment Earth, Big Bad Toy Store, Amazon, Best Buy. I said something. I said, so how soon is the big box retailers like Walmart and Target gonna get it? And Carmine's reply was, "Nice try." So, I mean, you
Yeah.
could take that as it's never gonna happen, or you're not gonna get me to make a prediction. Like,
I mean, it would be nice, but
yeah. I mean, did they sign? I mean, I guess all these stores are competitors of each other, but did they sign some deal saying like, well, it's these stores, but not other stores? Like they don't care about mom and pop friendly game store because it's just that one store, but they do care if it's Barnes and Noble or Best Buy or whatever.
I don't know. Um,
I'll just get it where it's the cheapest. Like, and that was
Yeah.
something a couple people asked. They said, well, I'm just afraid that I'm going to hurt the brand if I buy it like a cheap price on Amazon. I should buy it direct from Hasbro Pulse. And they're like, just buy it wherever you want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that much. So if they do,
because they already bought it up. They already bought it off of Hasbro. Hasbro made their money, so
is that how it works? Like a store will buy, and as long as they sell it, like they don't send it back.
Generally.
It was more
Right.
by units than by the monetary value anyway, even the way they started counting it, everything by units.
Units. Okay. Yeah, I clearly don't work in that business, so I just kind of like assume things, and I don't necessarily know if I'm right about that. So Hasbro still makes their money.
I don't know that I'm right about it either. It's just that seems where they switched to with the HeroScape on their crowdfunding thing to go
you're
by
talking about
units
backers.
rather than go by. Yeah.
Because if you buy five copies, that's 5 backers, right?
yeah.
Even though you're just one person, and they still limit you. So if you created a new account and bought 5 more copies, that's 10 backers. Even though it's just you
That's how I read it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, rather than just a dollar value. Well, I'm glad they're not doing the crowdfunding thing anymore. And actually, I was kind of disappointed. I was reading Amalgam Ash's video, and everybody go check out Amalgam Ash. I give him a hard time sometimes, but he really is a good streamer, and he does a lot of hard work. He's got a quest jam that's still going on. People are cranking out HeroQuest stuff, and they're voting on it and stuff. So check him out. He was saying that OrcQuest is not coming to retail, or at least they don't know if it's coming to retail, which I don't know. Maybe I just heard wrong. I thought somebody said, of course, they could have been just wishful thinking, oh, yeah, it'll come to retail. And I was like, great, because I'm not going to, like, I made a rule for myself that I'm not going to do another Kickstarter thing. It would be tempting if it was Space Crusade coming back, but I told myself, nah, I'm just gonna wait. I'm just gonna wait. If it's a worthwhile project, it's gonna come to retail, and I'll buy it when that happens, not before.
Yeah, we had the discussion game night a couple weeks ago.
Hmm.
The way I look at it is Kickstarter isn't what it used to be, where it was, hey, we got this idea, but if you can, you know, back us, we'll give you these couple extra bonus things once we get it done.
Yeah, as a
Now
reward for making our
it's
passion
like
project happen.
whatever copies they're making, they're only making as many backers as they get,
Oh,
unless their ultimate goal was to be retail. But
yeah. See, the idea that it would come to market is more of an incentive, I think, rather than just, ooh, I get to have this special product that only a couple people get. Because, yeah,
right,
just like everybody gets the mythic tier, fine. And then nobody gets it.
what's the one Marvel miniatures game?
Um, I'm not sure.
They're like the chunkier, chibi kind of minis.
Oh, I
But
don't
there
know.
is, I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, with
That's
their
a game?
yeah, it's a miniatures game. So
Oh.
with their campaign, they had exclusive Kickstarter miniatures that
Oh, okay.
if you're fortunate enough to find a copy of this on the shelf,
Yeah.
there's a Hulk miniature that was Kickstarter exclusive.
So if you
So
get this really
if you're
rare
gonna-
Pokemon, you're even
you know,
cooler than your friends.
yeah.
Yeah. Or like HeroScape. Too soon.
Marvel Unlimited, I think is
Marvel
what it was.
Unlimited. Okay, I've heard of that. I didn't know that's what it was. Okay.
It's a fun game. But yeah, there was lots of campaign exclusives that if you're, like I said, if you're able to get this retail, you don't get those other exclusive miniatures that might be a hero you wanted to play, but you're out of luck.
Well,
Same thing with the Target, Barnes and Nobles, and Walmart. They all had their own exclusives on
Yeah,
products.
true.
You had to go to all of them to get
Yeah.
a certain one.
Yeah, that's true. Those big retailers have done that. They've done it for video games. They've done it for other things too.
Yeah.
So just because it's going to retail doesn't mean that they don't do that. Because yeah, that does appeal to collectors and fear of missing out and all that stuff.
Yeah,
That also might be
I
why
like-
HeroQuest isn't or may not be in those stores because they don't offer an exclusive version for their store.
Maybe so. So maybe it's not that Hasbro is dragging their feet. Maybe these retailers want special privileges or exclusives. And because they decided that wasn't what the fans wanted, they're not getting those deals. Maybe
How would they sell to the same foreign markets if they don't even exist over there?
I don't
I
know.
wonder.
That'd be a good question. Well, and they might not even answer it because maybe some of those things are still in flux and they don't want to say. But it'd be interesting to see like what N. Carmine or Avalon Bill would say to that if somebody asked that directly in the Avalon Hill Discord. So put that out there or on Twitter.
I wonder if that's how that worked out with GameStop.
I said,
They
yeah,
wanted GameStop to carry HeroQuest, and they're like, "Well,
give us an exclusive.
what kind of extra are you gonna throw in?" And they're like,
Yeah.
we'll do this Guardian Knight."
Fine.
And
He's a knight.
not thinking that like, hey, it's the first, like, other than the Mythic stuff, it's the
Yeah.
first new thing that it's been added to HeroQuest.
Yeah.
And they just didn't anticipate that we'd be
Yeah,
such
it's like they
rabid fans on it.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about it that way. So it's like, yeah, they have this brilliant idea to get something done, and then it's like, oh shoot, like like everybody got their own idea about it. Like, okay, well, let's make it good.
Yeah,
But
so
I definitely think
I know everybody wants
if
to blame
that's
GameStop on it.
yeah, if that's the reason they're doing it, I actually have more respect for them that they're losing out on those deals. Well, and of course these retailers maybe will just decide, you know what, we want some of that money, fine. Of course, on the other hand, maybe they have so much money they just don't care. It's like it's you're the one that loses out if you don't do business with us directly, not the other way around. But I don't know. I just think, yeah, from the fan standpoint, like I don't feel like the Avalon Hill team has much say in it as far as that goes. I mean, they can tell the, the bosses at Hasbro what they want, I'm sure, but ultimately there's a business decision made there. So whatever the
Yeah.
main company, and if it's such a relationship where they're kind of just given free reign because they're trusted to make good decisions, like, okay, your target audience and you've been doing well, so we'll let you do it. Like if that's how it works, that's makes sense. But yeah, if the company, if there's somebody in charge that doesn't quite know and doesn't quite respect the franchise and wants to get their fingers in the pie and screws it all up, that would be tragic. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully they continue to go in the direction they're going, bringing the stuff to retail. And I feel like as the people streamer or whatever, sound really arrogant again. Like I'm not going to support Kickstarters or pledge drives. I'm not going to pre-order. I'm just going to buy the stuff like anybody else. And yeah, that means that my videos are going to be later than everyone else's. And whatever. I'm not going to have it like ahead of time, but that's okay. Somebody else will always get to it before me anyway. Hey, Elberg. Hey, I know that graphic. Yeah. Yeah. Kudos to Elberg, also known as Verg. They're the same person. And we were discussing, yeah, possible problems with the Spectre. But since there's so much we don't know, it's quite possible that it'll be fine. And if it's not, the community will let them know pretty quickly. And I think they'll respond as they always do with giving us a quick fix suggestion and saying, hey, ultimately you do it how you want to do it. But for their sake, I hope they do put in enough play testing so that the average buyer who just wants to play it as is and not think about it too much, will still have a good time, and it won't be just some like the Yeti like grabbing you and you can't get out of it. Not something that bad.
Yeah.
And see, that was
Yeah.
that one. Yeah, I'm glad they fixed it. But yeah,
Oh, I thought you meant the bear hug that the Yeti did
yeah,
back in
back in the day. Well, hey, how about this? It's the Yeti grabs
Hulk
you.
Hogan couldn't get out of it.
Yeah, the Yeti grabs you and then teleports into the wall, and then you both die in the solid rock. Dang. Yeah. Well,
I
in
will
the
say I was.
draft notes, they had a plan, but then they nixed it to try to make it harder, and then they forgot that it was a solo quest. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna say we need to wrap this up. So let's get those
Yeah.
closing thoughts. Sorry, I just had so much fun just talking your ears
Yeah.
off about HeroQuest.
Yeah. I just feel a little let down that we got the Into the Northlands, leading into the Frozen Horror. I was really hoping we would get one, something like
Another bridge quest.
going into Mage in a Mirror. But
I'm glad you
I
brought
guess
that up. Yeah.
I guess it didn't really need a tweaking like prelude into it, prologue into it.
The bridge quest is Rise of the Dread Moon. It's not just one quest; it's a whole pack. But yes, it's not a free one. See, I was gonna say that. I think I said this in the last stream, so I'm not gonna make it long. But this is one thing. Like when it comes to like free quests, I think that really helps. Like there's people that want that stuff printed. They want it in a box. They want the mods that are out there, like in a box. They want Mound of the Beastmen with an official thing. It's like don't do that. And you don't do that because you want people to see your product and go, wow, there's all these free quests that are available. It's even better than just what's in the box. And so that's a selling point. So, yeah, having the free bridge quests is great
Yeah.
because you can print them out yourself or you can get them in the app. And yeah, it's an incentive. So I too would like them to release a bridge quest. It doesn't have to be like, like Star Wars, we're filling in every little gap between this pack and this pack is this quest. But they've been doing it up until this point. So I guess Doug Hopkins is so busy writing Dread Moon quests. My thought is since they've waited so long and they haven't given us anything for Mage of the Mirror as a free quest, they're probably just going to wait till Dread Moon comes out and then there'll be some free quest to promote it. Like, I don't know, your first encounter with a specter or something. I mean, that could be something. Or a solo quest for the night.
Maybe Eyes of the Dread Moon started as the bridge quest and ended up being the quest pack.
Oh man, you need to make more of these. Guys, what have you been working on? You're supposed to be halfway done with that quest pack. We are, sir. Like, yeah, who knows? Yeah, it could have grown. It would be so cool to get like a behind the scenes, like after action, like post mortem on all the stuff they're doing. But we probably won't get that for another 30 years.
Somebody cleaning out their grandpa's notes from that he brought home from work and discovered, like, oh wow, hey, this is from the re-release of HeroQuest.
Wait a minute. So the courage really did last more than one attack? What? All this time. The crossbow. What? That's not how it works. Yeah.
That's not how any of this works.
No. It's all a sham. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on the Rantcast. I want to thank all my guests. Did we get some new people join? Nope, it's just the four of us, the four heroes: AngusMcBane, Jacer J, Karningul, and yours truly, Kurgan. All right, so Saturday, I don't have anything planned for Friday. We'll see what happens. But Saturday, we are planning to do HeroQuest fans stream. We'll be doing Frozen Horror again. I think we're just going to kind of plug away at that until we've gotten through it, and then who knows. Anybody want to plug anything? I mean, Jacer J, we've got Warbuilder 22J on YouTube and several other social medias. Anybody else got anything?
Nah.
Well, the nice thing is I can throw this on HeroQuest fans too, because all we've done is talk about HeroQuest. Well, we ranted a little bit about Star Wars at the top of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, switch it around. This is Star Wars first, and then HeroQuest for the rest of the time.
Yeah. So usually we do the Power Hour, and then we move into our next topic. All right. So is there somebody we can raid? It's kind of late. Any of you guys going to stream after this? Probably not. No, looks like none of our friends are up.
Ugh, it's almost 1 for me. I gotta go to bed.
I gotta go to bed. Yeah.
All right. Well, guys.
Luckily, I'm off work tomorrow. But
hey. All right. Well, we're gonna have Carl Casey play us out. I always forget to do the outro. That was something Strange Boss always did. He always did the outros. But yeah, we got Carl Casey White Bat Audio on YouTube. Cool stuff. Great guy that he lets people use his music for free. And we'll just see you on the next Rantcast in about 2 weeks. Hopefully we'll have Strange Bus back by then. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. It was a pleasure.
Yep. Have a good one.
see ya.
All right, good night, guys.
TheRantCastPodcast. Yeah.